Black Alpha Network. Power to the people.
Peace and respect, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good afternoon. We're going to get this room started off properly. Salute to everybody who's already pulled in. We're going to break it down the thorough way. We're going to talk about foundational Black America, and we're going to definitely represent y'all. So just give us a second. We're going to get this thing rolling.
Because we're gonna have to talk about some things. Why FBA is the best name for our lineage, period. And of course, we understand there's been a lot going on out here. But you know, we always like to come and give a balanced perspective on things, not coming from an emotional standpoint, but dealing with the business of empowerment, because that's what we do here at the Certified. We break down and disseminate information, also get other people to come and bring and share their ideas and information as well. So we have to get on top of our own conversation, or someone else, like they have done in years past, will do it for us. You feel me, my brother?
Man, that's 100% true, brother. And I'm glad you said the business of things, because when you speak of empowerment, a lot of times empowerment is business, and you got to be good on the business front the same way you're strong on the empowerment aspect. And that's what I've noticed about this era with foundational Black Americans. See, to identify yourself and to classify yourself, that's a beautiful thing. We've all seen what it's like when we're being classified by someone else. Anybody who will classify you is not doing it for your best interest. They're not doing it for your welfare. They're not doing it for you in general. So the very fact that this era today, we have represented ourselves and we've named ourselves, power comes along with that. And we've been handling it in a very business fashion. And that's what I love about right now. So anybody who comes up today and wants to speak, the first thing I want you to do is come on up and tell us why you identify with the term foundational Black American, why that is a powerful term, and why you feel it's the best for our lineage. Because you're going to hear a lot of different opinions. You're going to hear a lot of different voices. People got a lot of different aspects that they believe in, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, we have to be precise and concise, that we come up with a name that cannot be remixed. It can't be replayed. It can't be retwisted, recrafted, or remolded. And that's why foundational Black American is such a beautiful thing. And if you guys have noticed, that's the term that's receiving a lot of the blowback, where a lot of people are hating on it. And that's because it is the non-remixable term, and it is getting things done. So I want everybody to go ahead and represent. We're going to make sure this is a true space to where things get broke down in the realest fashion. But at the end of the day, we're going to represent FBA to the fullest and let the whole world know the African American is out of here. The foundational Black American has stepped in the building. Elaborate on that for me, brother.
Well, you know, when we hear, like Brother Tariq Nasheed often say, foundational Black Americans also have no, there's no way to remix it. And I'll put it to you like this. I saw something earlier today. Shout out Kid Gravity in the building. I see you. Shout out Helen. They did an interview with Condoleezza Rice. I don't know if you've got a chance to see that, family, but she's actually using our terminology and identifying that foundational Black Americans are not immigrants. So much so that she actually uses the term foundational and explains the validity of the meaning of being foundational. Matter of fact, I need to put that in this Jumbotron. But that is one of the things that, like, when you start seeing other people adopting our terminology in a unremixable term, and Condoleezza Rice is no idiot. Let's remember, she was riding with the Republicans at that. But she's up here at least talking about foundational Black Americans. That part is very major, because that is a woman who understands the law. So I would just, you know, kind of take that into consideration when we get into all of these conversations. Look at what other people and how they are reacting, especially folks in either in former government positions or current government positions. What are they talking about? And I'm hearing the term foundational pop up more than any other term, because foundational Black American is foundational is the very first word. And I'm hearing that in places to where I wouldn't normally suspect or expect it to actually come out of folks' mouths, but they're pushing back and delineating. That is a conservative Black person delineating, saying we are not immigrants. So, hey, man, the terminology is ironclad. When you are the foundation of something, that means nothing existed without you building it. You can't get around that. You can intermix every other term, but when it comes down to that very first word, foundational. Hey, if I build a house and I lay the first bricks, there's no other person that could come and lay claim to those bricks that I just laid. Why? Because we are the foundation. You feel me, my brother?
Well put, well said, family. And please find that clip with her saying that and go ahead and put that on up in the Jumbotron, or just go ahead and tweet that out, brother, because I haven't seen that, but I'm not surprised, because I've been hearing foundational pop up in a lot of different places. And you know why, brother? It's because they're being forced to have to deal with us. They didn't have to do that with the African Americans. They didn't have to do that. But when it comes to the foundational Black American, they're being forced to deal with us because we have galvanized and we've mobilized, and we've done that based on the premise of identifying self. When you identify yourself, it's a beautiful thing. And with that beauty comes power. And we're seeing a whole lot of power. What I always say on the Black Alpha Network, brother, peace, power, and deliver. We got the peace, we got the power, now we delivering on their ass. And we're going to keep on delivering until they cut that check. And you cannot get any of those things unless you identify as who you genuinely are. Foundational Black American, as we say, it's not a remixable term. You ain't going to find no Afro beats remixed version of it. You ain't going to find no salsa version of it, no bluegrass, no country. Hell no. It's going to be solely foundational Black American made, lineage, heritage, and culture. And that's what I love about it. A lot of other terms can be remixed. Let's be 100. And if you notice, anytime there's a debate about terminologies and classifications, nobody really ever has a counter for FBA. They'll start defending whatever they claim, but they can never really go at FBA other than a straw man argument, which is bullshit, because FBA is that thorough. And we've been searching for a thorough term that has really genuinely, tapped into who we are ancestrally and today. I always tell people, when you talk about foundational, and I'm going to add to what you just said, brother, foundational Black America, you can start at 1776 and go forward. And then you can start at 1776 and go backwards. And it encompasses all of that. Now, that's a powerful term, and we are powerful people. And that's why FBA is pushing. Last time I checked, that was FBA in the streets out there in Washington, D.C. with a reparations rally. None of these other names I've seen out there. None of them. Now, people going to say, well, all the same thing. But people came there off the backs and off the strength of FBA. Let's get it right. So FBA is moving, our flag is waving in the wind, and we're going to keep this thing pushing right along. And today I want to break down every single aspect of why foundational Black American is the best name. And I'm talking about socially, politically, publicly, privately, everything that encompasses us and everything that gets the job done, because we are on a mission. They better double up. Be zealous on you, fam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, understanding that we are always going to be under attack. So there is no days off. We have an enemy that never sleeps, never rests. So when we deal with this, hey, brother Rashid, I need you to mute your mic, brother. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, when we have these people that are trying to kind of muck up the conversation, and also some of the conversations I believe are intentional distraction to get you off of the goal. Because again, like how this OMB situation just recently popped up, I look at it as one of those manufactured things to raise a roadblock for people. Because truth be told, where was this conversation or the importance of it before the beginning of the year? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, bam. So I look at a lot of different things that, not to say they don't have any validity, but I look at the timing of how things kind of get thrust in the way. And right now we are still, like I said, and I continuously say, we're on the business of empowerment. And the business of empowerment right now, the focus is getting reparations. So if we're looking at getting reparations, and we're watching billions of dollars go over to Ukraine with and now they're trying to give Ukraine welfare. Even in my city, they're trying to fast track them to work. They're trying to fast track them. Oh, and they got housing vouchers. Now we have a tremendous homeless crisis here. But these Ukraine refugees get to come over here, get housing vouchers, and they're also getting welfare. And now that Biden is putting it to a federal situation, they're getting pensions. Some people that are working jobs every day ain't paying into their pension. They may have a 401k, but that's not like a policeman. He over here paying these folks like cops. They ain't law enforcement, they're refugees. And they don't belong to us. They're all the way over in Europe. That's a whole continent. And you mean to tell me nobody can take these folks in? So when I'm looking at the kind of conversations getting on classification, I would just want to direct y'all's attention back to that type of thing. We need to start putting down societal indictments, because if society will let that go on, but everybody's crying about woke and paying reparations, hey, we need to be on their tops, putting that mirror up in their face. Let them know the devils that they are for even holding that line against us. Back to you, my brother.
It's a pivotal time right now. It's a real pivotal time globally. And at the very same time, everything is going on is the very same era where we have took claim of our identity. Understand, they always try to keep us as a phantom people. You know, who are they? What are they? All that African-American shit that they was running on us since the 80s, that played to them. You feel me? So therefore, they're in a situation now where we are representing ourselves. How many times you seen them trying to, you know, derail us or pivot us or try to put another name on us or a name tag? You can't put no name tag on us. It's like that. We're not the old era where we sit down and get named. They used to run around here and name us like we was they fucking kids. But they can't do that today. They can't do that because we grown and we hold shit down the proper way. And foundational Black Americans, that right there alone, everybody has took notice. Everybody. Family, I want everybody to notice. FBA trends every goddamn week. Every week. As a matter of fact, it trends in 3 or 4 different ways. You'll have just FBA. You'll have foundational Black Americans in 3 different words. You'll have FBAS. You'll see it all the time. When these people call in these Twitter spaces and they troll us, they not calling these Twitter spaces talking about ADOS. Ain't nobody I ever seen call and say, what y'all ADOS doing? I ain't never seen it. They call it and they talking about foundational Black Americans because we are the ones that are directly associated with reparations. The proof's in the pudding, the receipts on the table. All we do is give out spoilers. If you look in Washington, D.C., that was FBA out there talking about reparations. It's to the point where FBA and reparations are so closely knitted, then you see who's doing the work. Then you see who's really holding it down on the front line. And that's what it's all about right here, right now, today. So this is why we have to maintain this term and understand there's going to be a lot of different people coming with a lot of different agendas, a whole lot of back avenue undermining tactics so they can try to strip away FBA from us because that brings power that they've never seen before. They've never seen this type of era. They've never seen this type of generation where we can genuinely put a name on ourselves and therefore we can move in our own way and we can get our own money on our own dollar. That's what it's all about right now. And the whole world is on notice and we put them on notice and it's going to continue to say that way. So we have to represent ADOS all the way out the building. We got to represent the other terms all the way out the building. I'm sorry. I know some other terms and people like them and that's cool, but them terms can be remixed. Those terms can be retwisted, reclassified. You know, ADOS means you can basically bring on, you know, somebody from, you know, the Caribbean. They can say, hey, I'm an American, you know, descendant of slavery. You can have somebody come on in here from, be honest with you, flat blackness allows anybody to show up. And that's a very flat black term. Foundational, as my brother was just saying, we have to understand that cannot be twisted. ADOS has to be represented as a flat black term. Black American is flat as fuck, but foundational Black American is very, very clear. And that's what we pushing for. But I want to see if you want to say something, Dylan, then go ahead and slide it to our first speaker.
No, we can go ahead and kick it to Brother Rashid. Go ahead, Brother Rashid. You got it. Unmute yourself, brother.
Yes, I was trying to figure out because I don't really have a problem with the ADOS, the Freedmen, and definitely not the FBA. My thing is this: why is it a lot of the immigrant communities and some from our own communities? I don't understand what the pissing contest in regards to why they have a problem with us using FBA. Some may have a problem with ADOS and some have a problem with Freedmen. Why everyone has a problem with us trying to mark our territory, basically, in other words? Why do they have a problem with us?
I can answer that right now, brother. They got a problem with us, the same problem they've always had with us, family. It's the same problem. They don't want us getting to the bag. Our brother TBA says, you know, they basically hate you because you Black. They take advantage of you because you poor. I'm going to update that. I'm going to say they hate a foundational Black American and they really hate a foundational Black American with money. FBA brings money. FBA is the term where we can actually classify and get to where we're trying to go. A lot of these other terms allow the door to be open for other people to slide in. So they hate the specific nature of foundational Black American, brother. That's what they really cannot stand. When you can remix something, ain't nobody worried about a name that could be remixed. That don't evoke no type of fear. You understand what I'm saying? But when you start talking about something that is specific and direct, which is clear and it identifies us and something we galvanize and mobilize behind, now that's something that's going to get everybody's attention. And if you look right now, it's got everybody's attention, as I just referred to a second ago. FBA's been trending all day long. You see them FBA flags waving all day long. So that brings us power. And you know, this lineage, heritage, and culture with power is a nightmare to the planet Earth. Does that make sense, brother?
Yeah, it makes sense. I just don't like all the bickering, man. I mean, and you know, everybody trying to. I know definitely. I represent FBA, and we trying to get this bag, and we trying to do what we supposed to do. I just don't like the insidious innuendos, arguments, and bickering, and demeaning and degrading. I don't care if it's coming from those who the Afrocentrists, the Pan-Africanists, or you know whoever the natives, the Dane Colloway, those guys. I'm like, come on, man. Can we just work together? And
hey, I'm gonna say this,
each other.
I feel where you coming from, brother, but I don't want to fall into that thing that it's a two-way street.
Yeah, because I understand. I definitely understand. Yeah. Definitely.
You got to feel me, because what people tend to do with us, they like to throw rocks and hide their hands and say it's a double, it's a double issue. Both people is doing it. Foundational Black Americans and people who identify as such, man, we too busy worrying about reparations and tangibles. We the ones who really put those terms highly on the forefront. So we're not really worrying about other people. We so focused on getting things done. When we was in Washington, D.C. at the rally, and I was there in the flesh with my wife.
I was there. I was there, definitely.
You was there too, brother. Yes, indeed.
I posted it. I video recorded everything as well.
Yeah, hey, was we worried about anybody out there, brother? Was we hating on the natives? Was we hating on the Mexicans? Was we hating on Pan-Africans, or we just handling our business?
Just trying to handle our business to the best of our ability.
That's what we are, man. We really are the first, time in history where this lineage, heritage, and culture has been represented. And people are really mad because we winning, but we playing fair. We ain't out here doing no backdoor stuff. We ain't out here hating on nobody. We're staying in our own lane. Let me tell you, brother, I tell people this all the time. When somebody's got to keep changing lanes, they not proud or they're not secure with where they're going. FBA have been in this FBA lane. We ain't got to hit the blinkers. We ain't got to turn left, right. We ain't got to veer. We're on the right path with the right mind, with the right mentality. And that's why we're content. A lot of other people, they're not content, so they try to dump that on us. A lot of other people, they're not secure, so they try to dump that on us. We good. We straight. So in terms of the bickering, the feuding, and the fighting, we all see that, but we got to understand in that type of situation, our hands are clean. As my brother Kaba always says, man, only problem is that they got a problem. But at the end of the day, we got to G-check and regulate somebody. We do that, but we multitaskers. We might G-check and regulate, but we do it all the way to the bank, brother. You feel me?
No, thank you. Thank you much.
All day salute, brother.
All right.
Hey, I want to chime in on that too. And like, as far as the bickering part goes, people are going to bicker, but you also got to remember a lot of that time, a lot of the nonsense bickering is because they really don't have much else to talk about. So arguing is the topic of conversation because, of course, these spaces can get numbers and drama always brings more numbers. That's why these spaces do actually numbers in a positive light because we're doing constructive spaces, still getting numbers. That's the point. Check the messaging. So when you guys are hearing a bunch of senseless bickering going back and forth, all the name calling and not really getting anywhere, you already know that we ain't doing that here. So like, I can't speak for other people's groups and how they go back and forth and interact with each other. All we could do is tighten up how we move. And then you just let rest of the chips fall where they may, because you can't. One thing that we don't want to get involved in is being a bunch of tone police. But what I do also need y'all to understand is if those people are stuck in just the arguing sector of life, leave them be and move on. But I need y'all to stop confusing the conversations because that's how a lot of this confusion is started. Because you have the people that actually make content that present the ideas, and then you have a bunch of other people that created nothing that are basically telling folks what this is or what that is not. Right off the rip, where do you want to go get your authentic merchandise? You want to go get it from the dealer. You're not going over there to Chinatown to go get your stuff. So kind of take that same approach to these spaces when it comes down to this information. Don't get your information from the bootleg, man. Get your information from the sources. And there's plenty of new Black media content creators that give you plenty of that. For the rest, I can't really vouch for it. But I do know that the new Black media got you covered. Outside of that, it is what it is. Back to you, Black Alpha.
Easy work like a part-time job, brother. Easy work. And that's one thing I noticed that, we proud of. We proud that we can get things done in a just fashion. We proud that we can get things done in a sincere way. Notice, man, we ain't out here being ratchet. We ain't out here. We really focus on the work. And shout out to everybody out there putting in the work. But when you look right now in terms of who's really doing the work and you look at what the people have chosen, it's what it is. We can't deny it. We got to just be 100% with it. And that's what I love about our lineage, heritage, and culture. We're to the time where you're going to have a lot of people with a lot of different opinions, a lot of different voices. But at the end of the day, the people will prevail and the people will decide. And if you look, foundational Black Americans is one that I believe most people gravitate towards, and foundational Black Americans is one most people feel in line with. I've had brothers and sisters come up to me personally and tell me how that name actually, taps into their soul. It taps into something that's deeper than just, 3 letters. It's deep and it means something. And I'm telling everybody, if you look at it categorically and historically, this has never been done before. And we represent it to the fullest. So we just got to continue to do the work. And when we do the work and we put in the work, everybody know what time it is. They know what time it is. Understand. The very fact that everybody comes around and they always got something to say about foundational Black Americans, that lets you know that we on their mind. And we wouldn't be on their mind if we was down there. We on their mind because we up top and we don't look down for nothing. So we just going to continue to keep on pushing and continue to stay focusing. And this is what we represent. And we're going to continue to do it to the maximum. And everybody else is just going to have to bow down. Now, with that said, we'll continue to get to the hands. Dion, it's on you.
Hey, so how you doing? Shout out to the host, the co-host. Yeah, I had a space about this yesterday, how a lot of the Twitter warfare banging on this app is causing a lot of dissension and discord. I think one way how we can do that, we have to come to a conclusion that we're not going to be able to change anybody's mind about how they want to be classified. And everybody is pretty passionate about how they want to be classified. So with that being said, in order to alleviate a lot of the bickering, I think a good resolve would be to come together and say, we can all go to the OMB and say, let's just have all of the hashtags, all of the classifications on one box, and everybody check that one box with a definition. Because at the end of the day, all of the classifications point to one direction. And that one direction is that we all owe reparations in this country, and we all agree to that. So in order to alleviate a lot of the bickering and the fighting, because we're not going to be able to check, everybody don't want to be called FBA, everybody don't want to be called ADOS, and no matter how, like everything that you said, Black Alpha, was absolutely correct about, ADOS and all about that, how it's not specific and all of that. The problem is, we're not going to change anybody's mind. So the best resolve to that problem is to have a definition for everybody's classification that we all agree upon, and we can have so when you check that box, you're going to see American Negro, FBA, ADOS, what else? Black American, Native Black American, all of that with slashes, and then we check that one box. I think that's the best resolve to this problem that's going to keep people from fighting. Because the truth of the matter is people are passionate about how they want to be classified. That's not going away. And I don't care how non-specific the classification may be for one person, that classification is God to the next person. So the solution would be we all come together and just have one box with everybody's classification on there. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah. On real talk, you know that Barack Obama, he slashed Negro.
Whoa, wait, bro. Hold on, family. Hold on. We ain't no line cutting, man. Go ahead, Zilla. You can take that.
Yeah, I don't really have an issue with that particular stance. I would have to find out the particulars of how the legal ramifications of that play out. But on the surface, it does not. It sounds like a decent idea, especially on the classification part, because as long as like FBA and all of these different groups were listed, and it sums up a classification for that regard. I think, however, when we start getting into the specifics of lineage-based policies, that'll still be an FBA thing regardless. And that's not really, the lineage base is not on a basis of what you call yourself, or your ancestry or whatnot. So I don't really have no problem with it. It makes sense to me. What about you, Alpha?
I mean, it makes sense in a perfect world, but at the end of the day, ain't that going to lead us back to the same bickering? I mean, if they bickering on the line, then they're going to be bickering at that table. You know what I'm saying? And our issue in a lot of cases is that we have a bunch of different people with a bunch of different opinions. And I don't care if we in the boardroom, we in the classroom, we out here in the streets, it's still going to end up with people bickering back and forth. So I believe at the end of the day, it's just going to have to be the will of the people. And this is nothing new, family. This is what has always happened throughout every single era and every single time frame. People represent what they represent. And then at the end of the day, as I said, the will of the people will succeed. And I see foundational Black Americans. At the end of the day, I don't really know what it would be like for FBA to really go to the table and sit down with ADOS and all these other people, because if they're doing their thing and they're making it happen on their own, why do they need to negotiate with us? People who claim FBA, people who represent FBA, and people who understand that. You know, I don't really know why I would sit down at the table and say, you know, hey, let's all talk about it. No, you do your work, we'll do our work, everybody do their work, and at the end of the day, we'll see who goes further in this race to get the main classification and designation. There was a time, you know, during Reconstruction, nobody was running around saying this is the Reconstruction era. That term was actually identified based upon the work. Nobody was saying there's a civil rights era in the civil rights era. It was classified based upon the work. So if this goes down as the foundational Black American era, then that means the foundational Black Americans were the one who put in the most work and held it down. I think that's a just means way. And I think pretty much most people in here will agree with me that it's all about doing the work and putting it down. And once you do the work and you put it down, there's really no need for the bickering, the feud, and then the fighting. So if people feel that ADOS or something is a term that works for them, go put in your work. If somebody feels that Freedmen or Black American or American Negroes, they ain't go put in work. Foundational Black Americans clearly, by the evidence, has been out here, by the overwhelming evidence, has been out here really, you know, pushing the line and, you know, getting together and doing some real activist work and holding it down. And I believe that at the end of the day, that term will rise to the top. And be honest with you, probably already there. Based upon, like I said, the blowback, based upon the attention. I always tell people it's really been all eyes on FBA. And it's not, I don't see nobody saying all eyes on ADOS. It's just not really the thing, or all eyes on American Negro. A lot of these terms people didn't even know about until a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. You know, FBA has went a long way in a short amount of time. And I believe we continue to push that work and continue to do it in a just fashion. This may go down as the FBA era, but it's not just going to go down because we all sat at the table and came up with a big acronym. It's going to go down that way because we put in the work and the time and the people prevailed. And I believe that's where we're heading. But I got my brother Afro Elite right here on the stage, brother. And I want to go ahead and have you answer that as well, Afro, if you caught the question. I don't know if my brother can hear me. Can you hear me, Zilla?
Yeah, I can hear you. Now I thought you went to Afro.
Yeah, I don't think our brother. I don't think he can hear me right now. We'll go to our brother Reg. Go ahead, Reg.
Yo, what up, fam? Definitely no disagreements. FBA does seem to be the airtight term, but as far as Freedmen, I know that's maybe a close second in some people's mind. But does the term Freedmen include those Native Blacks that seem to have? Does FBA leave out those Native Blacks? I don't think it does. But does Freedmen also include those Native Blacks that would be eligible for what we're trying to do?
Okay, I'll answer that, Zilla. Then I have you come on, and answer that as well. Here's the thing. And anybody who, feels a different way, come on up and talk. We're going to break it down the real way. That's how we do things over here on the Black Alpha Network. I'm going to say it like this. When you look at foundational Black American, it encompasses everything. I said previous, you can start at 1776 and you can go forward to this second. You can start at 1776 and you can go back thousands of years. It includes all the indigenous Black people, all the Maroons. It includes people who are not slaves. It includes slaves. It includes us. What it does, it makes it very airtight about lineage, heritage, and culture specifically and directly, where a lot of these other terms, you can basically just add anybody. As I said, ADOS, an American descendant of slavery, somebody can be from the Caribbean and say that. When you start talking about freedmen, well, what about Black folks who weren't, enslaved? What about the Maroons? When you start talking about freedmen as well, you're only talking about slavery. You're talking about slavery. It's basically, I'm just being 100, it's basically the roots version of a lineage. It's Kuta Kinte. It's our history starts at slavery. And I'm not really too big on names that just started slavery. Foundational starts at the beginning. Before anybody came here, we were walking this Western Hemisphere. And then it includes everything that went on after everybody came here. But remember, everybody came here after us. And we have remained and we have sustained. So foundational Black American, the beauty in that term, and why a lot of us resonate with it and gravitate to it, because it does not exclude the real ones. It excludes the ones who are not supposed to be here. And that's the real part about it. And I believe that's why most brothers and sisters deal with it. Other terms, they're kind of like slave terms, brother. You know what I'm saying? If I went around and said you a slave American, that's basically saying your lineage starts right there, slavery. I mean, what does the dominant society do? They feed us slave movies all day long. There's going to be a slave movie coming out next weekend. And then the weekend after that, they want to make it look like our lineage starts at slavery. And if you look at ADOS and Freedmen, that's basically saying our lineage starts at slavery. It starts at slavery and goes forward. What about the people before slavery? What about the people during slavery? And what about their descendants today? Foundational Black American encompasses all that. And I think the evidence is overwhelmingly clear that FBA is holding it down in the proper way. And it really resonates and represents the people in the truest fashion. Zilla, you can go on. And then I see JoJo and the Great on here.
Yeah, you know, and I think back about you got to be careful with the Freedmen term, because also it excludes a lot of those blacks, you know, those Black Seminoles, and I'm not sure how it affects the people from the Gullah Wars. But see, in these things, America's trying to erase their losses, because America took 6 straight losses to the Black Maroons. So they
hey, right where I'm at right here, brother. Right on down here in Savannah. Yeah. Right on down here. Savannah going on over to Jacksonville, brother. That was super Maroon territory. What about them?
And that's my point. So Freedmen would immediately exclude them, and also it helps the United States government kind of cover Andrew Jackson, the man that's sitting on the 20, which they call him the Indian killer, but he wasn't fighting no red Indians. He was fighting Black folks. So that makes him the what killer? So, you know, be clear on some of these situations. Like when you know this government always remembers its losses, and it always has to get you, always has to get back. So trust me, the way they would set it up, they'd be like, yeah, well, y'all could get reparations except for them damn Maroons. So if you hail from them Maroons, which a lot of us do, you know, they're going to try to find ways to exclude you. And not to mention, I mean, shit, the government knows who the damn Maroons and all offspring of the Maroons today, because that's why most of us still get fucked with. But
what's a good source to get the actual definition? Like, I looked up Freedmen, and it had like 4 definitions, and one of them kind of alluded to that our native blacks would be included, but it wasn't real clear. And yeah, it's definitely advantage FBA. You ain't gotta look at no fine print. You know what it is. You know who it includes. You know who it excludes. But is there a good source to actually look up the definition? So I think we doing too much bickering about this Freedmen FBA at this point. We need to put them side by side, list the pros and cons on the list, and go down. And we fall behind the one that gonna get us across the finish line and still be airtight at the same time, if that's possible. Like you said, some people gonna argue anyway, but if you get it line by line next to each other in black and white, at least the level-minded thinking people got to admit to what the truth is and what's gonna help us get to the prize.
I can totally agree with that, brother. I would say check like the Library of Congress. That would get probably the most recent standing document that you could read up on that right there. Back to you, Black Alpha.
Our brother made a point, but the point that you made, brother, it still ties into what we're talking about. You see how you said there's no clear definition of it? Ain't we in the clear era? Ain't we in the specific era? Aren't we in the airtight, locked-in era where we got to get this correct? We got to be on 1 billion%. That's what the problem lies with a lot of these things. We shouldn't have to pull out the microscope, the binoculars, the scalpel, and have to go find definitions for these things. That's the problem. And you can have one person say it means this, and another person can say it means that. You can have another person say it means these type of people, another person say it means those type of people. We can't have the thems, the theys, and the those. We got to have the we. Foundational Black American is direct, clear. You got brothers and sisters right here in this space that can identify and break down FBA to you clearly with no misconceptions. But when you start to gravitate outside of FBA and you look at some of these other names, they loose as fuck. They loose as fuck. They mad loose. And you can just slide in anybody and trust and believe. Now I'm gonna say this to everybody listening. If we cannot find a clear definition on these terms, trust and believe the tethers are watching that, because they're going to try to use that same loose language to slide on in. Anything you think, they done thought. So as we say, we don't really know what it means and we can't figure out a definition, and I see this document says this and that document says that, trust and believe the tethers is looking at that shit with their goddamn tether marker, and they pinpoint the little part right there and say, that right there is going to get me in on their reparations. That right there is going to get me in on their tangibles. That right there is going to allow me to classify them so I can get the tangibles and the resources that belong to them. So loose language is the worst thing to have nowadays. Flat blackness is the worst thing to have nowadays. And the beauty of foundational, and y'all know I keep saying this and I'm going to keep on representing to the fullest FBA all day. The reason why I'm going to continue to push that line is because we have to be airtight, precise, and concise. This is the direct and the specific error, because we seen what happens when we don't have a name. We see what happens when we get named. We see what happens when nobody can truly identify the definition. You get all lives matter. You get minorities. You get POCs. You're going to get the Ukrainians. You're going to get the Afghan refugees, rebels, and everybody else. I want foundational Black Americans directly to the point. And if you look at it, that term is the most specific one. But I got my brother Afro Elite on the panel, and y'all listen to my brother. And by the way, while y'all there, subscribe to my brother, because me and him did a video breaking it all down thoroughly. All on you, family.
Peace to everybody. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The first thing I got to say is I think I did something that really pissed Elon Musk off, because I was in this chat as a speaker and it wouldn't let me unmute myself. I kept closing and opening and closing. I had to close the app. I had to reset my damn phone. That's how bad this thing was tripping, y'all. I literally had to reset my phone, but I'm here now. Okay, so I'm here. Listen, I want to say, and this is something I talk about on my YouTube, shameless plug, all the time. When you study the work of our brother Neely Fuller Jr., you will study like the flow of progress, and you will study that comes from your thoughts, your speech, and your actions. Things that you think will eventually become things that you speak. Things that you speak will eventually become your actions, and that's how progress, that's how prosperity works. Okay, your naming yourself, the empowerment, and that's why I titled that video that me and our brother Black Alpha did. The empowerment of naming yourself is something very tremendous. It's something very big. Okay, just naming yourself alone, something powerful that affects the way you see yourself, that affects the way you see your brothers and your sisters, which will affect the way you speak about yourself, which will affect the way you speak about your brothers and your sisters, and will affect the way you behave, not only for yourself, the self-improvement of yourself, but also the self-improvement of your group. Foundational Black American is a very powerful term. It's a term that not only ties us to our lineage, but is a term that highlights the richness of our lineage and heritage. Okay, terms like those are very important, because those terms not only define us as who we are, but what we are as well. That is what is the mind frame that's going to psychologically break us out of the psychological shackles that white supremacy has put on us to dismantle the system. Okay, it's very important that we recognize this. I'm going to be honest with you. Calling yourselves American descendants of slaves is not only grammatically kind of all over the place, it does not resonate any power. Calling yourself a American descendant of slaves, even calling yourself a freedman, does not resonate power. Calling yourself a freedman literally says, my people were slaves, then they weren't slaves. Calling yourself a foundational Black American literally says that, literally in the word foundational, shows that your people are literally the foundation of the world's most powerful, wealthiest country. Now, nobody's saying that America is the greatest country and it's all glory and roses and shit, but we're saying it is the most powerful, and we are changing that. We are the foundation of that. So it is very important not only to delineate, because we know for a fact that all these other terms are remixable besides FBA, but it is also very important for the psyche of every single FBA to resonate with the power of our lineage. And that's why FBA is the best term, not only for delineation, but also for self-empowerment.
Is this new OMB thing going to allow us to insert FBA?
If we make it, we can make it to do that. Just like we made everything to do anything that we needed it to do.
And
Y'all seen that right there. Hey, before you go, Zilly, see what my brother just said. If we make it, doesn't that go right back to the point of what we're talking about, pushing the line and making things happen? That's how you get things done. That's the mentality of a lot of us. We say, shit, we're going to make it happen. We're going to go do it. If we going to push it, we go grind, we put in that work, then anything that we want is going to happen. And like my brother just said as well, it's been like that since day one. Day one. That's our mentality. So a lot of the feuding and the fighting that other people be on, and we ain't gonna name too many names, but the feuding and fighting a lot of people be on, we don't really be on that. We be laser focused, getting it done. And quote to my brother right there, anything can happen as long as we push forth, because it's been proven that when this lineage, heritage, and culture sets our mind and sets our sights on something, shit get done. We on a mission. Go ahead, Zilla.
Yeah, you know, and I'm glad he said that, man. Just like he said, if we make it that way. That's kind of my thinking, because again, family, always remember, man, power isn't given, power is taken. So when you're in a position of making your demands as a people, no one, whatever they talking about is irrelevant to your demands. They know what they owe. And see, what I wanted people to adopt is stop thinking about what they talking about. Because nowhere else in your life are you worrying about what the hell somebody else is talking about to get yours. You ain't grew up on the street. If for those of y'all who've been in the streets, you ain't waiting on no white man to tell you what the hell is what. So when it come down to this, don't start reverting back into slaves. No, keep that same energy here. We need that warrior energy here, not to go back into being docile. Whatever they're gonna say is what we're gonna be. No. We're going to be what we tell them we're going to be. So if we get it on OMB, get it on that, you know, I just like what the brother proposed, putting all of them on there. I ain't really tripping. It's just like when you get into that trick bag language, just always remember, we are fighting a very savvy enemy that is extremely savvy with the law and words. So we want to make sure that we got the wording, you know, right when it comes down to things that will affect our specific group. And then we also want to make sure the wording is correct when other groups are trying to infiltrate or marry themselves or tether themselves in to our claims. So, you know, we always just got to keep an eye on that, family. That's where I'm at with it. Back to you, Black Off.
Precise and concise. Everything has to be direct. Yes. All the days of having loose language, man, we can't go for that no more. We're not going to sit here and get to the point where we get very clear and then all of a sudden it go back to Black American. All of a sudden it go back to some slave name. Fuck that. We got to be extra careful with what we say. We got to be very, very, focused on anything that we come up with, because people are out here watching. You dealing with the United States government that literally goes around and takes things that belong to us and just gives them away. We ain't trying to go down that. FBA prevents that from happening. You can't come in here and say, well, I'm going to go give this to the foundational Mexican. Ain't no such thing. The foundational Puerto Rican. Ain't no such thing. You can't go give it to the foundational Jamaican. Ain't no such thing. This is for us, by us, created by us. We will control the destiny. We will control the pathway and wherever we land. But I guarantee you right now, look what we've already started and look where we're headed. That's because we're being direct. A lot of people overcomplicate things, and a lot of folks get, a little too drawn out with it. It's as simple as this. You have an identification for your lineage, heritage, and culture. You keep it airtight, precise, and concise, and you don't let no motherfucker inside the house that does not belong inside the house. AKA, where your family from? It ain't from here, then you got to get the fuck out. We got to put them on the corner like it's trash day. JoJo, it's on you.
Yeah, my phone tripping, man. Peace to the family, peace to the room. I'm kind of not here to argue why FBA is the best term. We already know pretty much that. I'm here for any smoke, cause I'm gatekeeping, man. That Freedmen, that Freedmen, to the brother that was asking those questions about Freedmen, man. So what happens is, let me tell you something, man. They pull different case law and studies up, right? And one of their things that they have inserted as freedmen was when they pulled up a case law, and it was a study. It said the court further finds that the term freedman, as used in the will, refers to that class of persons in the United States who were emancipated from slavery during our late Civil War or by its results, and embraces all the descendants of such persons. So let me just say this here, because they also throw free persons of color in this too. You got to be able to catch these because they're like the Matrix. They're gonna throw all kind of action, but you got to watch the wording. So the problem with freedmen is we must understand that it is a colorless term used to apply during the age of the time. Freedmen originated from the word out of it was in Roman. They was in Rome calling them folks emancipated slaves and freedmen. So let's get that clear. So that's a colorless term. So by applying a colorless term to a group that has been identified by its color or its race, right, it opens up the door for other individuals to tap themselves on because it's colorless. You get what I'm saying? There's no such thing as a term that we created called American freedmen. For them to put it forward to the administration, they are going to ask them, hey, you guys need to do this, and this, because it comes from 1865 when we named you guys this, only because you guys were supposed to receive certain benefits and services that we were giving to people after the Civil War. See, you got to make this stuff make sense, man. They be trying to spit about stuff, their ideas of a Freedmen's Bureau and a bank. Man, all that's game, bro. All that's game. All of it's con. You got to be ready for them. I'm talking about you got to be razor sharp because these guys are real smart. I'm telling you, man, I got to tip my hat to them. I got to tip my hat to these folk. They had me tricked too. I'm not tricked though. I don't woke up on their ass. And anytime talking about for real, when you ask these questions, you got to know that they're going to jump to other terms and they're going to hit the Jumbotron to try to prove this and prove that. But always know that what the word stems from, it stemmed from a bill that was meant to benefit poor whites, black people, and abandoned lands after the Civil War. And it was only put in place temporary. And then when they want to talk about Special Field Order 15, you take them to House Resolution 330. House Resolution 330 states that Special Order 15 meant that there was land to be sold up to 40 acres to the people who previously owned it, meaning slave owners. They can either rent it or they can buy it, not to exceed 40 acres. All this old stuff they've been running on y'all, man, and me too. That shit is out the door, man. That shit does not fly. Excuse my language. Might got some people up here in the church, but on some real stuff though. These folks, we got them, man. We got them. I'm right here for them, bro. I'm right here for them. I'm right here for any smoke that they want to bring up to argue about this freedman crap, because it ain't gonna fly. Don't nobody I know run around calling themselves no freedman. Don't nobody I know in the street say, hey, man, yeah, man, I'm a freedman. Man, all that stuff that they were doing, running to the OMB, trying to reclassify everybody ahead of everybody, you know, up under everybody's nose. Had I not, I was just sitting there telling them about them offline. I say, man, had I not showed them the email and retweeted the email of the OMB sending me the documentation saying that we got 90 days to let them people know that, you know, what our ideas about being classified as just ADOS or freedmen, them freedmen wasn't gonna say nothing, bro. They was not gonna say nothing. And they got upset because I was bringing it to the light. I said, hold on, man. Why ain't y'all telling nobody? They start blocking me, talking about some, oh, they should have been there. Now they're trying to get all their ducks in a row because the people waking up to all the BS. They're trying to have these old, what you call it, spaces? Grooming spaces, where they grooming niggas with the history But when you grooming people, you pointing out coons like W.E.B. Du Bois and shit. Red flags all over, man. So, you know, like I say, my personal position, because I did the OMB, and I'm just being realistic. I'm speaking from a realistic standpoint on what I stand on, right? I gave them two options. I said foundational Black American, and I broke that down. And I said, if y'all won't do foundational Black American, I say give us Black American, because that's something that we've been going by for the 153 plus years. And I can tie that back down to all of the documentation from Black history to a Black American heritage flag to all that stuff that we got already. So I gave them two options. You see what I'm saying? And I say you designate that to the descendants of chattel slavery, and make sure everybody that is of African descent or Caribbean descent, make sure that they identify as their nationality. Get them off of that. So it makes sense to me either way. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I did that as my personal decision. I ain't trying to say, hey, everybody do what I did, because, you know, everybody got their own way of being. But I'm here to poke holes that y'all don't need to carry that Freedmen stuff no more. Let them folks hold their own necks. I guarantee you they can't survive without your energy. They can't survive without quote tweeting shit you tweet, talking about some, you'll be like Black History Month, and then they'll quote tweet it, American Freedmen History. That's bullshit. That ain't no that, man. Look here, man. So be careful, y'all. Be mindful. Be vigilant. If you need any paperwork or whatever, man, to go back to see these sources, I'm talking about, see, what you got to do is go back to the actual Constitution. You got to go back to the actual Congress when they wrote the bills. You can't be listening to them when they talking about solidarity, from equality, all of that shit. You got to actually go back and look at that old manuscript, that old stuff that they put in legislation back in the day, bro. And you'll see that a lot of this stuff that they did, all them folks doing is twisting it around. I'm gonna land my plane.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Afro, did you want to chime in on that, brother?
Actually, I did. I did want to chime in. Thank you. I'm going to say that as many of you guys know already, I used to debate a lot. I used to be a debater, okay? And one thing that people use in tactics of debate is they cherry pick different case studies, or they cherry pick data points, okay? They're very selective. And all of the other factors around the situation, they're doing that to point a narrative. So there's a lot of people who will know certain statistics and who know certain court documents or case studies, and they selectively they cherry pick the ones that they bring up, and they omit all the other ones so they can create a specific narrative, a specific trail for you to follow. I've been saying for a while that the term freedman, first off, did not come from Black Americans, did not invent the term freedman. That did not happen. The term freedman was used, and I've said this before, the term freedman was used prior to the end of the Civil War, and it's not a racially based term. It was a term that was implied automatically Black American, because only Black folks were slaves in this country. So just saying freedmen, you already knew who you were talking about. Now, today, we're not the only Black folks, and we're not the only non-white people. So you can't use the same terms, because the same implication is not going to work in today's form. Now, when you know all of the evidence, you'll have a clear conclusion on what you should be referred to as and what direction you should go in as, okay? When you have people who have a specific agenda, they'll very selectively cherry pick certain case studies, or they'll selectively cherry pick certain court documents and emphasize the implication as if the implication was a written fact, and it wasn't, to guide, or as Jojo said, which was a proper term in that use, groom the audience into believing whatever narrative that they're trying to push out. So these people are not stupid people. These are not slow people. A lot of this is very deceptive manipulation tactics. These people are, and unfortunately, these people, because a lot of them are charismatic, a lot of them are good orators, I will admit, and a lot of them do know statistics. So a lot of people get caught up in the charisma of certain individuals, and they overlook a lot of the flaws in logic from what they are saying because they're caught up in the energy and the passion in which somebody's saying. I've said this for a while, and I'll say this in land. I'm not going to go on too long. Anybody can say anything. Anybody can be passionate about anything. Being passionate does not mean that somebody should be following anybody. There's a lot of people we've known from this year and last year who are very passionate people, but who have no idea where to go, who will lead you down a damn ditch, okay? Just because a passionate person is jumping off a bridge does not mean you should jump off a bridge because they're so enthusiastic and passionate about it. All right, you need to do the evidence for yourself. If what they're saying is not making any sense, if what they're saying is not adding up, then you need to ignore their charisma. You need to ignore their passion. You need to ignore some the cherry-picked points of evidence that are correct. The truth is absolute correctness. The truth is absolutely correct. And if who you are listening to, and I'm not saying because I'm not absolutely correct, but if who you are listening to is very selectively and seldomly correct, then their passion and their charisma needs to be ignored. And I'm going to land there.
Yes, indeed. I totally understand the passion and charisma aspect of things. And, you know, that's the one thing you deal with these public spaces because people are likable. Sometimes if based on a person that people like, because I mean, I watch it in multiple different situations, you know a person is doing something that damn sure is off, but no one will say anything because, you know, they rock with that person. But here's my issue. It's like, if you're not going to say nothing, then say nothing, but don't co-sign it. You know what I mean? Because I see a lot of that too. And it's like, well, you can't co-sign wrong. And that's one thing we got to make sure we just be mindful of. Because family, it's okay. You want to be a real friend? Check your people when they're off. And say, hey, man, I don't know if that's the right move. You know, it's okay. If they get mad at you, then, hey, man, your relationship wasn't solid to begin with. But you got to understand, also when that happens, certain people just might have certain agendas for whatever reason. So, you know, just be mindful of that. I'm not putting any indictment on anybody here nor there, but I'm just saying, let's all remember to be intentional in how we're engaged. And, you know, when you start seeing things that are off, you know, it's just off. You might want to address it or you might not. But the one thing I will say, even if you say nothing, don't keep co-signing bad information. And back to you, Black Alpha.
All right, I'm going to say this piece right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and get to the great, I think it's Don, but I'm going to get to you in a minute, brother. One thing we got to do is we got to quit being so emotional. A lot of people who are tied to like Freedmen and stuff, they're very emotional and they do things ceremoniously. We got to stop with the ceremonious stuff. Like, I'm down with this because my great-great-grandma on my auntie's cousin's third, fifth side was this back in the day. Man, fuck all that. Is that going to get us the money? I want the money. I want reparations. I want dollar bills, cream, cash reparations everywhere around me. That's what I want. And I'm going to put all the emotion to the side. That's that same vote blue no matter who stuff. Well, I've been doing this ceremoniously for 60 years. I've been called this ceremoniously for 150 years. Man, ceremony has never served us. Let's get that clear. Ceremony has never served us. Doing things over and over and over again, expecting different results. We all know what that's the definition of, has gotten us nowhere. So a lot of people out here, when they come and they start talking about Freedmen, a lot of times they can't really give you an actual statistical reason. They'll just kind of talk ceremony. They'll be like, well, this is what it has been, and this is the precedence based upon this. What is that based upon this precedence ever got us? Has it changed the wealth gap? Has it got us reparations? Has it changed our welfare? Has it changed our health care? Has it changed our economic situation with economic deprivation? Has it? No, it has not. So it's time that we come and we be anew. And that's what I love about this era, family. And I'm always harping on this era because we are all a part of it. We ain't sitting here watching no movie. We're making it. This is a new era and everything we're doing is fresh. We said reparations. Let's be real. Reparations was in somebody's fucking basement with 17 boxes on it and cobwebs. We done polished that shit up so nice it shines bright. You feel me? It shine without the lights on. That's all based upon us, tangibles, cut the check, run it. All of these things we're doing, foundational. These are new terms. Earlier today, B. Zilla, you said Condoleezza Rice is running around here using the term foundational. So you know we popping up on their doorstep. That's what it is. Freedmen, I'm going to tell you right now, they'll say Freedmen right now and don't give a fuck, because Freedmen is literally in a white supremacist headlock, and it's been that way since the Civil War. I'm just being 100. I'm only stating facts. They don't care. Put it this way. If you go to the dominant society and you go to any politician and you say Freedmen, they're going to be like, oh, good, we can handle that. We've been handling that for a long time. We'll mix that motherfucker up and we'll give all that shit to Ukrainians. They ain't scared of that term. That don't move nobody. When you go up to them and you say foundational Black American, then they go, whoa, hold on now. They're getting some steam behind that. They're getting some momentum behind that. We can't twist and turn that. So always watch your ops, and your ops will tell you a lot about where you are. The verbiage is very, very important. So when you have a term that is fresh and anew, and it represents something today, not 100 years ago, not 200 years ago, not your great-great-great-grandma, I'm talking about today. When you find something that is new and fresh, that's what pops up on their radars, because they can't handle that. But when you got an old term, trust and believe, they already done came up with a million different ways to spin that around. And you've seen it because we've all been living in the world of the freedmen and the descendant of slave. We've been living in that world. That world gets you all lives matter. That world gets you police brutality. That world gets you no reparations. Now we're in a world where reparations is a very viable thing, to the point where presidents on their campaign trails are being asked about reparations. Did Freedmen bring that to the table? Did Ados and Yvette Carnell and Tone Tits, did they bring that to the table? No, they didn't. This is from the foundational Black American Black grassroots movement, in which a lot of us represent. And we're not here to feud, fight, and bicker. As I said, just be quiet and do the work. And if you watch, we've been quiet and doing the work. Somebody can say things about us. They can throw things about us. They can get mad at us all they want to. That's fine. We just going to stay focused and do what we got to do. And the more we stay focused and do what we got to do, you're going to see things get done. And if you look around right now, we're seeing the results. But I want to ask you a question real quick before we get to Great Afro. You broke this down, family, on the video that you and I did. You spoke about how the term freedman represented an era that was completely different in terms of population, in terms of policy, in terms of race in this country. Can you tell everybody, brother, about the difference between how that term was identifying the 1800s and how we need to really update it and represent today?
Yes, thank you. Okay. Well, back during that, first off, and now I've said this before, that term has existed prior to 1865. Okay. That's when a lot of people make it seem like we created the term freedman. That is not historically correct. That's inaccurate. Now, when we're talking about 1865 post-chattel slavery, and the term freedmen were to identify people, because the term freedmen means by definition people who have been freed from slavery, people who have been freed from bondage, people who have been freed from captivity, or whatever type of synonym that you want to use for that. The only people in this country during that time that could have applied to were Black slaves. That's it. So you saying freedmen just automatically meant that it was implied. It was not a written law, because and how you know it wasn't written, because the term doesn't even necessarily exist. Like Jojo was saying, the term didn't even originate in America. Okay, so it was just automatically implied, based and by saying a freedman, you automatically know. In the term freedman and Negro were used many times interchangeably, and that's where people get confused. It was used interchangeably because freedman was just automatically implied, because nobody else could have been classified a freedman. Now, here's the thing. Since freedman, by definition, is not a specific term to a specific group of people, it's just a specific type of categorization of people who have been freed from bondage. Anybody can say, now we're centuries down the line, and anybody can say, I am a descendant of freedmen, therefore I am a freedman. We're not a part of chattel slavery, but we are descendants of the slaves who were a part of chattel slavery. Okay, there are a lot of non-Black people who are a part of, who are descendants. Okay, they're not Black. When you say freedman, I can say I'm freedman because my great-great-great-great-grandfather was a freedman. A white person can also say I'm freedman because my great-great-great-great-grandfather was a freedman. And because the word freedman, based off of the definition, does not have any type of gatekeeping, the racial gatekeeping aspect, the white person saying that they are a descendant of freedmen is not incorrect. Historically speaking, and based off of the definition and the letter of the law, that white person can literally say, I am a descendant of freedmen just like you. You are no more a descendant of freedmen than you probably would be, but you say, hey, I'm a descendant of freedmen, and if freedmen are getting reparations, you can't say only the black descendants of freedmen get reparations. This is why it is important for us to update the lexicon and create terms that racially gatekeep other people from getting into those aspects. So when you say a foundational black American, you will have a white person say, well, my great-great-great-great-grandfather was a foundational black American. However, that does not make me a foundational black American because I am not black. Because the word black is in the term. That is why it is very important for you to use that. Because nowadays, because of how mixed race America is, nowadays everybody has some degree of freedmen in them. So for you to say freedman gets reparations, everybody's going to get damn reparations. You have to go by the letter of the law or else nothing is going to work. And I've tried to explain this several times, and folks are acting very dense, as if they're too emotional to comprehend what I'm saying, or they have another agenda they're pushing. So I hope that answers your question, Black Alpha. And if y'all want to, since you referenced it, if you guys want to go back and check that broadcast that me and him did, I'm going to see if I can put it in the if it's not already in there, the Jumbotron. You guys definitely need to see that. That's a much needed reviewed video.
Hey, Afro, check your DMs, brother. I just hit you up, family. Check them out. We'll keep it moving. Black, and then back to our brother JoJo. I think it's Black Seed, and then JoJo.
Hey, peace, fam. Alpha, Black Alpha, Alpha Elite, Afro Elite, pardon me, and B-Zilla. Are y'all able to hear me pretty well?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. I just wanted to speak on what Afro Elite was speaking about with regards to Freedmen. A lot of what he said was correct, and there were some things that I would like to just come in and kind of fine-tune. Okay? Freedmen itself is a status. He's correct in the sense of saying it's a categorization. I mean, so would race. Race would also be a categorization, but it's actually a status. He was also correct in explaining that freedmen is not something that pertains just to the United States, that it has a history prior to the United States that goes back at least a couple thousand years with regards to its relevance to societies. Anytime a society has a status of people who are free and people who are in bondage, you're going to have these different categorizations that Alpha Elite was speaking on, right? So he was also correct in saying that we are the only group of people, I'm saying that generally speaking, I believe that most of us have an enslaved ancestor who were enslaved in this country. Where I think there may be some misunderstanding, or maybe it's just a different viewpoint, is with regards to the status aspect of a particular group of people who were also racialized, which we were, right? So, freedmen, because it is a status, and the status with inside of this society goes back to colonial times. As an example, Virginia. That is not something that, as an example, white people could actually claim or tap into. I'm going to explain briefly. The status, based on the 1662 slave code from Virginia, says that the status of a child, his or hers, is passed on through perpetuity through the mother based on whatever her status is, whether she be in bondage, that means enslaved, or freed. In the United States, white men were never enslaved in the system of chattel slavery. Therefore, that status could not be passed on from persons who were emancipated, who had a previous status of enslavement, and now have a current status at that time of being freed people. So no one who's white could claim freedmen. They could claim being related to, right, a freedman, but they could not actually claim the perpetuity of the status that went from our ancestors who were emancipated onto us to this day. So I think that may be a point of contention, possibly confusion, but that's where I think the argument lies. It doesn't lie in whether or not people have some type of blood or ancestral connection, because you're going to have that even if you're a foundational black American, which I get Afro's point. They can't claim that they're black, which he would be right with regards to that, right? But if foundational black Americans also extend from the past to the present, they absolutely could claim that they're related to a past foundational black American. The status of freedmen is something that they could never claim, because they themselves would have had to have been in the categorization of being enslaved and then freed, which is not the case with regards to white people in America.
Go ahead. I think Afro wanted to chime in real quick. Go ahead, Afro. You got it.
Okay, I'm gonna be very brief. Okay, you would be very correct if we were living in the latter half of the 1800s. What I said specifically is that white or just a non-black, I didn't even necessarily exclude it to white people, but a non-black person can technically claim that they are a descendant of a freedman, just like we are claiming we are a descendant of freedmen. Their white people didn't have to be recognized as a freedman, but since white people today, most white people in America today, except for the ones that are really like European and foreign here, most of the white people that have been here have to some degree black DNA from the slave trade, you know. So they can say, and especially a bunch of mixed breeding and stuff, which is something that they were trying to do not too long ago, that they have a relative, they are a descendant of a freedman because of a freedman back in the day. And you can't say they're not a descendant of a freedman. So if we, and this is the important part, if we base our reparations off of being descendants of freedmen, and that's it, we say we're descendants of freedmen, so we're owed reparations, then that means you open the door for anybody who can qualify to be a descendant of a freedman. White people, which is, the term is getting overlooked, white people who have ancestry, who have one or two grandparents. Okay, people don't understand how far back, you know, your grandparents go. You know for a fact you have 4 grandparents, and then 8 great-grandparents, and then 16 great-great-grandparents, and then 32 great. You know how far that goes, how many great ancestors every single last one of us has? A white person can easily say, hey, I'm a descendant of a freedman. I don't have to be black to be a descendant of a freedman. So therefore, if freedmen get reparations, I get it too. You have to use the terms, and this isn't the 1800s. You have to apply what is applicable today. That a white person could use that argument today. So that's the point I was trying to make.
I go.
Go ahead, JoJo. You got it.
All right. So, y'all know what a snake don't smile at you when it bites you. It just bites your ass. Let me say something. He being disingenuous. Okay. Because freedman is a status given to the 5 civilized tribes. It's not a status that is actually on the books for black Americans. Period. That thing is irregardless of color. Period. So that's disingenuous. Then to take a shot at can't nobody be a descendant of a foundational black American, sir, because it's in the term foundational, meaning that I can trace my lineage all the way back to the killing fields and beyond, and I'm black today. That's why foundational black American is in it. So that's disingenuous. We're not going to argue about tying somebody on to foundational black American. It's been defined. We know how to define the term. But when it comes to this term, freedmen, it is not a political status that is for black people. It is nowhere, no documentation that you can show me that it says it defines black people. So let's stop with this lie, because it's not. You guys are trying to get this as a status for black people. Keep it real, man. It's nowhere, man. Refugees is a status, though. I could pull that for you. It's an actual status, sir. So I understand, you know what I'm saying? You guys come in, y'all cherry pick your talking points, talk about black codes and all that old good stuff. But we finna cut right down to the middle of this one, my G. We're gonna cut down right to the middle. Freedmen is not a status for black Americans. It is not a status. No, sir. It is a status for the 5 civilized tribes. Land my plane.
It's like, I understand even what B Zilla was saying about us creating a term for ourselves. I do understand that, you know what I'm saying? I think a little bit what I'm saying is being lost in translation. I do also understand, too, that people got their preferences as far as what they want to be referred to. So out of respect for the room and the conversation, I want to make that clear. What I'm trying to say is that the status aspect within inside of the society is actually slave or free. There were only one group of people in this society who were enslaved. Those group of people were also racialized underneath the terminologies or categorizations of black, Negro, or color. Therefore, I'm referring to the fact that you have.
Skin, you're in the matrix, brother. You're in the matrix.
I see if I can come back.
Yeah, go ahead and try to go out and try to come back in, brother. I don't know what's going on, man. You know how Twitter do. We start getting constructive, they start tripping.
I want to address real quick the DM that Black Alpha sent me real quick. And it's about time. It's about time I address this. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows Afro. You know he's very cool-headed. He don't really let nothing get to him, nothing bother him. And I'm not now. Okay. So Naheem has sent, and I've just saw that Naheem has sent multiple requests to debate me over the term freedman. And he's tagged me in different spaces before, asking to debate me multiple times. He's mentioned me a few times, Afro Elite, debate me. Look, okay. People wonder why I have not debated Naheem, okay? And the answer is very simple. I don't debate Naheem because I don't view Naheem as a peer. Naheem is not on my level. I am smarter than Naheem in every way you can think of. I debate way better than Naheem in every way you can think of. Would you agree to a debate with someone who told you that they think that 2 + 2 is 6 instead of 4? I wouldn't. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I would not agree to that debate. If somebody said, I'm going to debate you that 1 + 1 is 17, so please sign up to my debate. I'm not going to do this. This man needs help, okay? This man needs help. The man sounds like he has his nose congested all the time, trying to sound tougher than he really is, okay? Nobody with any sort of credibility or any sort of comprehension at all takes him serious whatsoever, which is why he's trying to get clout from my name. This is really the only time I've recognized him, because him as a grown man is so desperate to, quote unquote, debate me. And he just wants to take away from, my clout that I have rightfully earned due to the respect that I have gained rightfully from the community. Naheem, don't care who gets offended by this. Naheem is not as smart as Afro Elite. Naheem is not going to debate me. There is no debating. I am the master, and he is a student who wishes I allow him in the class. I won't. Okay, this is not a special ed class. This is a class for the gifted learners. Okay, and not gifted in that way. So, Naheem, I decline your debate. Stop asking. And that's all I have to say.
Somebody ring the alarm. Somebody just got laid out. Somebody just got laid out.
Yo.
That was G, homie. That was G.
Hey, check this out. And that dude, you know, he's came in our spaces before. And again, y'all know we like to be fair to everybody. So we've let him share the stage once before. And that's when he was, you know, over there making his covert plans to have their little march. You know, and if you've noticed, all the people that was involved with that have just suddenly fell off. All of a sudden, reparations just fell right on out of their mouth, just that quick. October 15th to now we're in February. We ain't even in the March. This Black History Month and them niggas still quiet. And then everybody, oh, y'all over here eating the shitty and this and that. Y'all look like idiots right now. Every last one of y'all. Oh, y'all just following this and following that, and you following bona fide laws. Family, listen. We got to make sure that we just keep it tight and right. And when we see the frauds, you know, we see people hugged up with Yvette Carnell. Now all of a sudden they're the chief freedmen. You know, you might just want to wonder what's going on. And then you look at this whole OMB situation. It's like, I mean, unless you guys are looking at really addressing what you need to address there, and that's that ADOS connection, I have no problem saying that because we all know that shit's true. You got to clean up the dirt in that house right there. And we got a lot of mess, and we already know what. See, here's my thing. Yvette Carnell go out of her way, and her and Tone all the damn time. We are the ones who started this reparation conversation. We started this conversation. I'm y'all's mama. And not only that, but we are the founders of ADOS. We are the founders of ADOS. And now all of a sudden, oh yeah, nothing not mentioned. For all of you Tariq Nasheed haters who always talk about how FBA is patented, or it's copywritten, so is ADOS. ADOS is on there. I don't hear y'all sitting up there screaming at the mountaintop saying that. Oh no, just notice everybody who's silent on Yvette Carnell and ADOS. Just peep that, family. So when I'll always look at who's speaking at what times and who's quiet when they actually should be speaking. And one of these times is right now. Every person out there that got so much to scrutinize about foundational Black Americans who has stayed silent on ADOS being on that OMB is suspect. Feel free to chime in if you really want to. Back to you, my brother.
Wait, hold on. Before, because I just got a guilty conscience. I'm sorry. I got a guilt. I love Black folks too much. I got a guilty conscience. Somebody, please, y'all send me Naheem's Cash App or his Zelle or something like that. I'm going to send him some money so he can get some Claritin and some lotion. All right. I saw that little promo video he did for his little reparations. I don't know how you're wearing a 3-piece suit with ashy knuckles. That combination doesn't really add up. That's why nobody showed up to your shit. Okay, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help. See, this is what I'm saying, the master and the student relationship. This is why you can't debate me. I got lotion, nigga. Look, but I'm going to help him, though. Somebody send me his thing. I'm going to get him some clippers. I'm going to get him some Claritin. Y'all give me the list. Claritin, clippers, lotion. Besides that, I don't know. I ain't trying to, flex. I ain't trying to do too much, you know what I'm saying? He don't really deserve all that. But yeah, there's some Claritin and some lotion. We'll start there. We'll help him. Our people need our help. You know what I'm saying? I didn't mean to say all that stuff. There's a lot of gifted people out there. I don't want them to feel like they're any less valuable in society. I understand mothers drop babies all the time. It's not his fault. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm victim blaming him, okay? So send me his cash out. He's getting some lotion, high quality lotion, and some day and night Claritin or Allergen or whatever the fuck. All right, y'all hook me up.
Afro, I just want to commend you. That is a very generous thing to do, brother. You are a stand-up guy. You are definitely representing the lineage in the best way, helping that poor fellow out. I just really have to go ahead and tip my hat to you, brother. Such a graceful thing to do. You know, this is real standing together and helping folks out who have lotion problems and they need a date with lotion. So I got to give you a whole lot of respect, brother. I salute you from the Black Alpha Network for all of your help and all of your endeavors and helping the busted, broke, and the battered. I appreciate you, family.
Man, yes, indeed. So let's continue. Let's get to the hands. Let's get to I see you. We'll come back to you, Black American. Let's get to I believe it is what's this name here? Live and
It's me. It's me. Thank you. I want to say hello to the host, Afro Elite, Beatzilla. Oh, y'all. Like, damn, I wanted to have so much to say, but y'all covered everything. Afro Elite, don't cash app nobody. It's not necessary. I think you covered everything I wanted to say. I felt your pain. I wanted to say everything, but you just bounced out and just said it. So salute to you.
That's true.
I couldn't even say nothing after that.
That's so funny. Them niggas, they was cooking. That was funny.
oh, right on.
Also, one more thing. This dude that's up here, I think that you came up here before. And yeah, I do have you blocked. Black Seed American Freedmen. I don't know why I have you blocked, but I probably had you blocked for a long time. So what you probably try to do is try to get us all to be one type of people. This is what I wanted to say. I found out today that the people that, you know, whether if you come from different parts of the islands and things like that, that y'all got your own little reparations going on in the United States of America, whether it's up in Alaska, whatever. Y'all got your own thing going on. And it's specifically just for you guys. Whether you come from an island, wherever. Y'all got your own thing going on. While we was doing our own, y'all got your own. Now I'm going to need some of that money back. And that's how I feel about it.
Facts. We're going to need our money back.
Yeah, we've been holding y'all down for 50 years. You shitting on us. Told us we wasn't shit, that we was lazy and all types of things. We took all that. And we were still helping out. But now that y'all about to get something back and y'all act like it was a secret, it's not a secret anymore. So if y'all getting something, we going to need something back too. And that's all I wanted to say. Everybody have a good day.
Thank you so much, sister. And family, I know that you guys remember. I've been telling y'all, I hope y'all thought I wasn't playing. When I told you that they have in the Congressional Black Caucus, they have a Caribbean Black Caucus that is literally looking to get money to build up infrastructure, jobs, homes, schools, all of this amount across the Caribbean. They over here double dipping and helping the CARICOM move. While we're over here talking about reparations from the United States, our actual Congressional Black Caucus is actively working to get the Caribbean reparations and get them our tax money down there while consistently acting like they cannot hear us talking about reparations. So, I mean, I hope y'all knew that that was no joke, family. That's really going on. So, yeah, like she said, yeah, they need to give us our money back and definitely stop coming in our spaces trying to talk down on foundational Black Americans. She means business. Go ahead, sis, you got it.
Hey, brothers. Thank you for this space today. So I have a question. I'm going to give like a little bit of context behind my question first, because for me, I've been hearing this argument back and forth, and I have not heard anything yet that has convinced me that putting foundational Black American with Freedmen together is not a good idea. So I first want to say that I understand the premise of saying that, well, the white people gave us the term freedmen, but they also gave us the term Black and American. So for me, the same reason why I'm not going to separate from Black, because we have so much of our history tied to that, is also the same way I feel about freedmen, because a lot of what I'm hearing is only focused on the political aspect of that term, but not all the history that we've done in this country that's attached to it, whether it be freedmen towns, freedmen schools, freedmen hospitals, and even people doing great things referring to themselves as freedmen. So the other thing is, we talked about the other day, and I'm not going to go through all the examples, but being that we know that they are actively trying to crowbar other people into our history, whether it's, making the Latino division in our museum in DC, or whether it's them trying to claim hip hop, or whether it's Kamala bringing Latinos to the Freedmen's Bank, whatever it is, there's so many examples of this already occurring. And being that our people don't even know, a lot of our people don't even know our own history when it comes to the term freedmen. So there are different types of freedmen. I think that we're clear on that, just like the same way there's different types of Black people. And so for us trying to put foundational and American together with Black, we're making it specific. So for me, I'm just not sure, that it's a good idea to lose that term, which is attached to our history, because we have people actively coming along trying to claim to be the people who did the stuff that we did. So my question is, because I don't hear anybody really addressing that. I just keep hearing the problems that people have with the political designation freedmen. So my question is, if you guys have a argument against putting the terms together, and you don't think it's a good idea to shore up that history being connected and attached to us, what is your solution for making sure that that history that is tied to the term freedmen, in terms of what we've actually done in this country, not just a political designation, what is your solution for making sure that stays connected to us?
Can I answer, or was that for anybody?
Go ahead, bro.
It's for anybody.
Okay. I will say this. Just based off of your question, I'm going to ask you another question just to get where you stand, and then I'm going to answer it. When was the last time that we were classified as freedmen? When did we stop being classified as freedmen? Freedmen America.
When was the last time we were classified as that? I don't have the exact answer to that, but what I'm more so talking about is the fact that that is part of our history, and a lot of us don't even know it. So somebody can come. But wait, let me just finish, because I want you to speak to the fact that other people can come along to claim that they did the stuff that we did under that term if we don't have it attached to us. And that can work really easily, because a lot of our own people don't even know that history tied to freedmen. So that's why I'm asking a very specific question, and I really want you to specifically answer that, because that's my concern. The same way people say, "Oh, well, white people made up the Black." Wait, can I just finish making sure that it's very clear? Because the same way people say, "Well, white people made up the social construct Black, right? So we should just separate from that." But guess what? We have a lot of our history tied up into that term. So I'm saying I'm asking that question for the same thing when it comes to freedmen, and I want to know what your solution. If you're okay with losing that connection, I want to know what is your solution to make sure that other people are not going to be able to come along and claim that they were the freedmen that did that, because we also have Latino people trying to claim they were part of Jim Crow. Like, these are active things that are going on right now. So can you please specifically answer those questions?
I asked the question to get where you stand. Now, here's the thing. We are connected to that history irregardless of anybody else trying to be connected to it. And we're connected to it irregardless of our term. The same way we don't need to use the term African American to tie us to all of the things that we had did when we were called African Americans. Is the only time I hear this argument that if we don't call ourselves freedmen, we're going to lose our history is with freedmen. Because if with that argument, and this is, just like a teaching moment, with that argument, we would have to go back to calling ourselves Negro. We would have to go back to calling ourselves colored. And we would have to go back to calling ourselves African American and all of those, everything. You don't need to call yourself the term of when you were called, like a checkpoint, in order for you to be attached to that history. What we're saying is the word foundational. We are saying based off of the lineage of people that you're referring to, the foundational lineage, those are freedmen. So when we say the word foundational, freedmen is all with that, because the freedmen people, or the people who are classified as freedmen, were from that lineage. So based off of you saying foundational Black American, you are already adding freedmen in everyone who comes from that same lineage. You don't need to say you're freedmen to tie yourself as freedmen, and nobody else is going to be able to come in and say, okay, well, if y'all not going to say y'all freedmen, we're going to say we were freedmen and try to, colonize your history. Because with that argument, nobody is trying to say that about African American. Nobody is saying we should stick with African American, or else they're going to take all of our African American history. Nobody is saying we should stick with colored, or else they're going to take all of our colored history. If we have foundational Black American, that eclipses and that overall covers all of our history stemming from the foundation of America. So everything from when we were colored, from when we were Negro, from when we were freedmen, African American, Black American, all of that stuff is implied with the word, or is not implied, is in the word freedmen. It's based in that the first word freedmen. Foundational. Foundational is all, because that's the origin of the lineage, and everything coming from the lineage, the origin of the lineage, is already going to be in there. So we don't need to latch on to the term freedmen to keep the history.
So I'm a little bit confused because I just heard several people argue that white people can claim to be freedmen too. So I'm not sure how then that is how that's being separated from what you're saying right now. And also, let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. Just let me finish. Also, the reason why we are moving away from African American is because other people can come here and classify themselves as African American. So I also heard that it was okay, that people were okay with keeping, if we can't get foundational Black American, just sticking with Black American. And to me, that doesn't make sense.
No,
wait, hold on.
Ma'am.
Am I allowed to talk without being interrupted? Because I didn't interrupt you. Is it okay if I just finish without being interrupted?
No, we don't like the word we. That we, and then we ain't getting nothing out of it. It's a no we.
Hold on. I'm saying that because you're misquoting some of the things that I'm saying. So I'm saying I did not say that. But continue with what you're saying. You can continue your point. You're not muted anymore.
I think they used to be they used to indoctrinating the audience. So let her get her talking points together.
No, here's the thing. That nobody. What I said is people can claim that they are a descendant of freedmen. That does not mean that they can co-opt our history. And the flaw is with that argument is only the freedmen folks, use the argument of if we don't claim freedmen, we're going to somehow disconnect our history and our lineage with that. Nobody is going to be able to come and co-opt that. The reason that we're delineating is not because of the historical sense. The reason we're delineating is for future sense. It's not because they're saying that they came in and they were freedmen. Nobody is arguing that they were freedmen back then. We don't need to keep the term freedmen from the past, just the same exact way we don't need to keep the term colored. with the exact literal argument that you're using for the term freedmen, anybody can use, well, we should call ourselves slaves. We should literally call ourselves slaves in property, because if we don't call ourselves slaves, we're disconnecting ourselves from our slave ancestry. We're disconnecting ourselves from our slave history. We've been called a bunch of different things. The history keeps going forward. When you say the word foundational, everything that stems from the foundation of America is all included with that. So you do not need to use any other terms to keep your history. All of those are different identifications of what is foundational. So it's all included in that. And I feel that your argument is disingenuous because you're literally arguing something that can literally be argued with any other classification, but you're homing in on the word freedman because that's the word you want to use, not because you believe in that argument. But you could have finished your point. Okay, then. We got John.
Can I add something?
Hey, let me add in real quick to that. Let me add into that. I'm going to answer that question real easily. As simple as this. The reason why you cannot have somebody steal foundational Black American is because foundational Black American is new. And we're all right here today, and we can say, hell no. Who is going to gatekeep freedmen? You're going to go dig somebody up from 200 years ago, and they're going to say, no, it really means this and that. With freedmen, you're basically putting it all on paper. And the paper we've seen, the documents, JoJo's put a lot of them, it sends you in 100 different ways. When you deal with foundational Black Americans, since it was created, utilized, and represented by us today in this era, we can simply gatekeep it by living, breathing human beings. Okay, they pull up some, well, foundational means this. No, the hell it don't. Foundational means that. No, the hell it don't. Ain't no foundational Haitian, Jamaican, no foundational white person. So everybody who represents foundational Black American can represent it and gatekeep it and regulate it today. And then we can pass it to our children today. We don't have to go in the time machine and gatekeep something from after the Civil War and go get a bunch of people from the damn Confederacy of the Union and say, well, what y'all think? Well, they did. Foundational Black Americans are here today. And that's the beauty of coming up with a new term. That's the beauty of being anew. And that's the beauty of having everything fresh. You can put your stamp on it. You can put your sticker on it, and you can define it. And that circles us and brings us right back to the core point in which we've all been saying. FBA cannot be remixed. There's no salsa version. There's no Afro beats version. There's no goddamn bluegrass version. It's only based on our lineage, our heritage, and our culture. It's unremixable. You cannot twist it, recraft it, and send it back to us. They twisted African American, they twisted flat blackness, they twisted ADOS, they twisted freedmen, and then they gave us some weird watered down version that does not apply. FBA, you can't do that. Who in the world is going to come into this space right now and tell us what FBA means? Who gonna do that? Who gonna do that? Who gonna check it? Who gonna call into our spaces? Who gonna see us face to face and try to tell us the definition of our lineage in which we created? It all goes back to the point. When you create your own lineage, you create your own term, your own classification, designation, and identification, you control it. And we control all of the above right here in real time. So in terms of somebody coming and trying to twist it, steal it, redefine it, it ain't happening. It's not possible. It's not capable. Foundational Black American is a term that was created by foundational Black Americans. It will be regulated by foundational Black Americans, and it will be gatekeeped by foundational Black Americans. And I do not mean foundational Black Americans from 200 years ago. I'm talking about foundational Black Americans from right here today. And we got about 200 of them in this space. So no, you can't take it. You can't twist it. You can't remix it. You can only deal with it. Yes, indeed. I see my brother John Horst in there. It's all on you, brother.
Am I allowed to finish? Because I was interrupted and I didn't
finish. Wait, whoa. Did your phone drop? Because they both offered you 3 times to come back.
I was interrupted by Afro.
No. I know. Listen. What I'm telling you is, listen.
So I'm not going to get to finish. Is that what you're saying? Because I'm not being disingenuous. I genuinely have this question.
You're genuinely being dropped off the stage. That's what you're genuinely doing. Sorry, y'all. Anyway, we all sat here. Yeah, hey, boy, you gonna give him that real one. Listen, if you're still listening, we offered you to come back. Both of the brothers said, hey, come on and speak. 2 times we waited. You slowed the room down waiting on you. So you're not going to slow the room down while we're waiting on you and then come back and play victim and say that we're cutting you off and not allowing you to talk. Everybody in here heard you and they said, lady, please speak, say your piece. And you didn't say nothing. And then you come back and you cut me off. That ain't how it works. So if you want to come back up and talk, but don't talk get quiet, and then do it all on your terms. That's not how it works. John Horse, it's all on you, brother.
Yeah, what's good? Yeah, man, like, you know, it's not hard to understand, man. Like FBA, it's a good a good term because it covers everything. You know, I mean, you know, people.
Man,
of course,
hey, whoa,
when you were calling my name, it's glitching. I did not hear when.
Okay, then that's all you had to say then.
Get to say.
Wait, you wasting time. You can go again, but you're gonna have to get in the back of the line. That's how it works. If somebody calls your number and you don't come, you gotta wait.
Glitching. The room was glitching.
Okay, well now it's not glitching, and be quiet and wait your turn, sister.
Okay. John Horse, it's on you, brother.
Yeah. So, yeah, man. FBA covers everything, bro. Like literally, it covers everything. It covers, you know, most people, they have different ideologies when it comes to like, okay, like whoop-de-whoop. Like some people, you know, claim that they've been brought over from the slave ships, and some people decide that, oh, you know, we Native American and all of this, that, and the third, bro. FBA covers all of that. You know what I'm saying? It covers all spectrums of that. You know what I'm saying? If you understand, you know, Dr. Claude Anderson and, you know, everything that he was pretty much breaking down, bro, like we've been here on this land. The first slaves to ever come to the United States were brought here in the 1520s. They got together with those Aboriginal people and they pushed out the Europeans, which were the Spanish. And then, you know, in the 1600s, you had the other groups come in, the other African, the 300,000 Africans that came in. So after that, all of those groups that were there came together to create us. That is what the fucking foundation of Black American is. So it covers everything. You know what I'm saying? Now, the thing is with Freedmen, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes, bro, like we have to revamp, you know what I'm saying, shit from the past, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I understand, like, people want to hang on to, like, Freedmen and everything. But for me, personally, when I saw Kamala Harris trying to, like, crowbar all these other groups in, nigga, that's when I was kind of off that shit. You know what I'm saying? I just was like, nah, like, yeah, it's just, I don't want any other group of people laying claim to our reparations or no shit like that. You know what I'm saying? We came up with FBA, bro. Like we did that, not the United States government. They're on, you know what I'm saying? They're playing by our rules because we're taking power by claiming our lineage, telling them what we are, not them telling us what we are. We're telling them what we are. You know what I'm saying? So they have to follow our lead. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we have to move going forward. That's how you gain power. You gain power by, you know what I'm saying, calling the shots and you picking up the mantle and doing what it is that, you know what I'm saying, we have to do. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, FBA covers all of that. You know what I'm saying? This is the new thing that we're pretty much, you know what I'm saying, you know, taking up, bro. So it is what it is. I'll land there for now.
You know, I have to agree, because I keep stating that, man, I keep stressing that point, Brother John Horse, and I'm glad that you reiterated it. We will dictate the terms of how we are identified. No one dictates that for us. That's what we've already done that, been there, done that, and it ain't got us nowhere. I understand, like, see, to me, it almost seems like people are holding on to this Freeman identity, like Black folks holding on to the church. And it's really holding it well, because now what happens? The Black folks hold on to the church. By way of that, you ended up married to the Democratic Party, getting nothing. And right now we watching billions of dollars, billions upon billions, hundreds of billions going over to Ukraine. They're getting systems put in place and established for them before they even set foot on this land. But they're coming over here, and what are they also doing? Oh yeah, they're bringing their forces over here to train in America. What you think they're going to be doing? Family, I told you months ago that they are going to be bringing them over, integrating them into our police forces. Because even in my area right now, they're short on police. But the reason why they're not screaming about being so short on police staffing is because they're going to be getting it from Ukraine.
And illegals.
And illegals.
And people fail to understand about how the police are over there in Latin America. They have a George Floyd every 28 minutes in Brazil. So, yeah, y'all niggas better get ready.
And so with that being said, family, we have to be on our P's and Q's, not worrying the sentimental value of a term. Now, saying that if we don't align ourselves with the Freedmen term, there's a whole generation of black folks that, like my mother's generation, she's in her mid-70s. Ain't none of them folks calling themselves Freedmen. Matter of fact, when she was born, she was designated as colored and Negro. So
Zilla, most folks didn't even know what Freedmen was until 6 months ago. Let's be 100.
And so again, it's like, well, I get you got the new term, but let's not act like we was raised like that. You was raised as black folks. This is your community. You knew the term Negro. You knew the term colored. Because again, for some of us, we old enough to understand what the NAACP mean. And even like the CME churches for that matter. So we didn't have no freedmen. African American Episcopal Church. You got the colored Methodist Episcopal Church. These folks was calling themselves everything but freedmen. So all of a sudden and now make it such a big deal. That's kind of weird to me. But I will tell y'all this, it is not erasing any history, because we've had a whole history where Martin Luther King was talking about the American Negro. It wasn't no freedmen. Civil rights had nothing to do with no freedmen. So everything that you live in right now that they go back to, talking about civil rights and whatnot, freedmen wasn't even uttered, because we have our history here under whatever term it is. But you know why that's not important? Because we're part of that lineage. So you can't erase us from what we are, regardless of what you call us. Back to you, my brother.
Family, and let's be 159 and a half. The reason why so many people all of a sudden start speaking about Freemen, they didn't 60 years ago. Like you said, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, Elder Cleaver, Kathleen Cleveland, Fred Hampton never mentioned it. But all of a sudden you hear people start speaking about it 3 months ago. Is because a lot of folks hate on our brother Tariq, and a lot of folks hate on FBA. And it has become a West Haven, a center place where if you hate this side, you got you a nice little cozy name. You don't want to be down with ADOS because you got a problem with old girl, then you can come on over there to Freeman and be in the middle. That's what a lot of it has. You got a lot of people who just have hate. That's why we always say a lot of this stuff is centered around foundational Black American hate, and we all see it. Now, I want everybody to notice this one thing. This space been going on for a minute. And Brother Afro, me and you spoke about this personally, brother. Everybody has noticed that we can give counter statements to the flawed nature of ADOS, Black American, and even Freedmen. Nobody yet has came and had any counter conversations about how FBA is flawed. Nobody has. What people do, they'll start defending whatever they like. But can't nobody poke holes in FBA, which goes back to our original point that FBA cannot be remixed. When we say it can't be remixed, we got receipts to show you. Not one person has came in here and presented any type of argument at all, not an iota, of why FBA is bad. They'll say, well, I like this term and I like this term, but they can't ever say why FBA is wrong, because FBA is precise and concise. That's the beauty of having something that is direct. That's the beauty of having something that is modern and current, where you don't have to go back in time and find something. We have come up with it. We've crafted it very, very particular, and we got it to the T. So no, nobody can find any type of flaw in foundational Black American, while a lot of these other terms have flaws in them, left, right, and side to side. But we can keep it moving. I see it's JoJo, brother. Go ahead, fam.
Nah, it was I think go ahead. Let the two Freedmen go first. They're in our space. Let's give them the casualties of allowing them to go first. I'll wait.
I think it was Black, and then She Means Business. You can go.
All right, thanks. Appreciate that. Y'all can hear me okay now? I'm not in the matrix no more, right? All right, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
we got you.
All right, cool, bro. All right, so I'm gonna start off where I came in again. B Zilla, I agree with you about the statement you made about ADOS with regards to people not actually saying anything about the fact that ADOS is trademarked, particularly if they're saying that about FBA, right? I 100% agree with that. Both of those are trademarked, but I agree with the point that you made there, bro. Secondly, I wanted to say that sounds like it's either a little bit of confusion or it may just be preference with regards to Freedmen is not a classification with regards to race. It's not. You know what I'm saying? The Freedmen as y'all said, somebody said it, were black, Negro, or color. Freedmen pertains to were you enslaved or free, taxed or untaxed, right? That's a status. Let me go back. Freedman doesn't mean taxed or untaxed. What I'm trying to say is freedman pertains to a status, y'all. At 1865, people were emancipated from an institution of slavery. There was a status change. That's all that freedmen actually relates to. Now, the important part about that is that we know that by law, there were no white people who were enslaved under chattel slavery, only color, black, or Negro as far as the racial classification. So I'm hearing this kind of like conflation. Yes, we had both. We had a racial classification, and then we also had a status of being in bondage and then freed in the U.S. They're not the same thing, even though a person may have both of those things, being called a Negro, a colored, or black, and then also being recognized as either free or enslaved. That's very important for people to understand, right? The young lady who came in, she means business. Actually, what she was saying was very cognitive, y'all, because what she's trying to do is explain that she understands that there's a historical and a cultural attachment to blackness in our culture and not diss that, which she shouldn't, right? But at the same time, the status change of our ancestors is something that was inherited through perpetuity. Why is that important? Because when you have an institution of slavery, they made it so that that was inherited the same way, particularly through the mother's status, right? White women didn't have babies, and then those babies ended up being free, enslaved. That happened with Negro, black, or colored women. So, and that's dependent on if the person was already a free person or not. So I want to make that very clear. The other thing is that all of us are freedmen by virtue of that, even without using the terminology, because we all inherited a status of being free outside of chattel slavery. Doesn't mean we didn't go through Jim Crow. Doesn't mean we're still not oppressed. It means that we are not born into the institution of chattel slavery as a result of that. So that's passed on. And that's what I was trying to explain to the brother Afro Elite. It doesn't matter that people are descended or they have blood ties because of all of the mixing and the amalgamation. The status itself only went to the people that you would call foundational Black American today. So you can't tap into that. The other thing too is that the lineage aspect with regards to what we're talking about is not ADOS, it's not Freedmen, and it's not FBA. The lineages are within inside of those terminologies, right? So my lineage is Hunt, Anderson, Taylor, and Williams. We don't all have the same lineage. And that, I can't stress that enough, that those names are the names of people who came from persons who were enslaved. Not FBA, not ADOS, not Freedmen. Freedmen is the status that my ancestors with those names actually took on as a status change from being formerly enslaved to being emancipated persons who are now recognized under codified law as free. The other thing is, JoJo, Freedmen is codified in law. I live in Virginia. I can tell y'all for a fact, whether you're talking about the African American Museum or Alexandria, Virginia, that you can find these things and you can find modern things that attach the formerly enslaved persons to those same terminologies. Freedmen was lost throughout time after Reconstruction was overthrown, and the only group of people who kept it were the Indian freedmen. Why? Because they didn't go through the same level of calamity that we went through. Then what they did was they took the status and they made that an identifier for them as a particular ethnic group. That's why. So they were actually freed after us. Those Indian freedmen wouldn't be freedmen without the 4 million. You have to understand how this works. The people on the mainland or the jurisdiction under the United States and Europeans, for lack of a better word, were the original people who were emancipated. The people who were under governments of the Indians came afterwards. Subsequently,
because they did not go through what we went through with these people committing terror on us the same way, they were able to keep that. They understood the importance of freedmen as a status, and they made that an ethnic identifier. So it's not the same thing. You have to understand the fullness of the history to understand that it's not just that, oh, the Indians are freedmen. No, that's not how it works. Because it's based on the status of people, as Afro Elite said earlier on, going from being enslaved to freed. That's what it's based on. So we went into the 20th century, 1903 to be specific, with then utilizing the term Negro. And as Beat Zilla said, most of us during the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s never used the term freedmen. If you were to talk about people who were formerly enslaved, they used the term descendants of slaves, ex-slaves, Cali House. That's the same thing with regards to talking about the status. Talking about the actual status, not just saying freedmen, we're using it as the terminology. The terminology defines the status of a group of people, right? So the civil rights movement was, in a sense, a way to pick up from what was sabotaged during Reconstruction. So, B. Zilla, you're right. King and them, they didn't use the term freedmen, but what the actual works of the civil rights was to try to recover things that we lost, that we essentially made gains or were supposed to gain during the time of Reconstruction. That's why it ties us directly back to that point in time. Last thing I'll say is this. The 13th Amendment is tied directly to the emancipated persons, which are the freedmen, right? So the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment are created during Reconstruction periods. And if you look at the bills during those times, they use the term freedmen. Also, Special Field Order 15 not only uses Negro as a racial classification, but it also refers to them as freedmen with regards to status. So it seems like there may be some misunderstanding here. And it definitely is a bias. I mean, I think that could be said Black Alpha, Afro Elite, Beatzilla, for anybody. That goes whether you're talking about you prefer freedmen as the terminology, whether you're talking about ADOS as the terminology or FBA. But I'm just trying to bring the historical component there with regards to freedmen rather than arguing over what we're going to call ourselves, right? At the end of the day, even if we called ourselves FBA, you still would be freedmen. The thing is, you're not going to be able to use racialized terminology when it comes to writing this legislation. How do we know this? Because people already spent their money and their time behind it to get constitutional lawyers to try to figure out a way for us to get these checks that we've been talking about. So for FBA could be used, it could be used in the term in a sense of a layman's terms. It's not going to be able to be used with regards to constitutional law. It's just not going to work. That's just the reality of it. So Freedmen allows us to actually, I'm gonna end it here, bro, because I know I was going on. Freedmen allows us to still speak of the same black people who y'all say are the foundational blacks of America without actually using the term black, but we talking about us. That's the reality of the matter. It doesn't matter that people are descended, because people are going to be descended. If foundational black America covers the spectrum from the past to present, no, people can't call themselves black now that aren't black, but they're still going to be able to say I'm a descendant of that. That's why that's a bad faith argument, Afro Elite, to be honest with you, because the claim isn't based on descendants. It's based on lineage, which is held in your last names of the families that came together, right? And those particular family lines are the lines that were enslaved, not ADOS or FBA. That's not the lineage. That's a way to just mark the people who hold the actual lineages, and I'll land there.
Sir, you seem like a person who is well read and very misunderstanding the book. You read a lot of books, but you misunderstand them. Okay, listen. Okay, foundational Black American is not, let me repeat this, is not a racial term. Why is it not a racial term? Because foundational Black American is not a race. It is a lineage. It is a lineage term. You can use a lineage term to get legislation pushed through. You guys keep saying because it has the word black in there, they're going to exit out. No, when you put it together as foundational Black American, you make it a lineage term, not a racial term. Now, here's something else that you keep
That's
missing.
incorrect, sir.
Keep having to educate you on, okay? I keep having to educate you on the origin of the term. This is something all y'all freedmen keep missing. The origin of the term is not a racially based term. Okay? So just because there were no white freedmen back then does not mean, and it might even be implied, and this is why you got to read all the chapters in the book, not just the front and the back, does not mean that only black people can be freedmen. There is literally no sort of legislation, no book of origin, no nothing that specifically states that only black people can qualify as freedmen. Even if only black people were qualified to be freedmen back in the 1860s, does not mean that only black people would be able to be qualified as freedmen in 2023. You are using this as if we're making the argument in the early 1900s. We're in 2023. That argument is not going to work. Why? Because the word is not a racial term. The word just means someone who is emancipated or freed. Okay? The word is heavily implied because we were the only people who were emancipated. That does not mean, and I'm going to repeat this one more time because I keep having to going back and forth with you. That does not mean that only black people can be classified as freedmen. Nowhere does it say that even if just because only black people were freedmen in the 1860s means that nobody else can therefore be referred to as freedmen today. You can say, I am a descendant of someone who is a freedman. And if we're going to change the terms and the ethnicity and make the claim based off of us being a descendant of freedmen, anybody can say, I am a descendant of freedmen. You guys are missing the loophole. You guys keep talking and going around this loophole that you guys keep talking about. Anything that is not specific to us, that can only apply to us. You guys think it only applies to us because it was never used against us before. It can be used against us now because the world is different today than it was in the 1860s. And I'm not trying, I feel where you're coming from, and I don't know. I'm not trying to snap on you. I'm really not. But my thing is that we keep going in this argument that only black people can identify as freedmen or claim a freedman lineage. That is incorrect, and it's very problematic that we keep having. For the last couple months or so, we keep going in this repetitive circle of that is not accurate. If the term just means someone who is emancipated, and it was only black people who is emancipated, why do you think that means the term only can apply to black people who are emancipated? I don't understand that. It does not change the definition of the word. You guys are changing the definition of the term freedman to fit what you guys want it to mean. It don't mean that way.
I understand that, brother. Can I just ask one question real quick and then a response? Alpha, can you please qualify what you mean when you say, as an example, at that point in time in the 1860s, that the terminology was able to be used, but we live in a different world now, and then it couldn't be used now? Like, can you just qualify that? And I'd like to make a statement, and that's all I have to say.
Afro, let me address.
You said Afro or Alpha?
Can we not go out of time?
Afro. I was talking to you, bro. Afro Elite.
Okay, I didn't say it couldn't be used. I said it would be problematic for it to be used just the same way colored. We, as Our people were referred to as colored. Our people were referred to as Negro. Our people were referred to as African American. The reason why we're not using those terms is because now today we are not the only Negroes in America. We are not the only coloreds in America. We are not the only African Americans technically in America. So that means other people can latch themselves on to our claim for reparations. This is why we are using something. This is what the whole reason why Foundation Black American was created, because it is something that gatekeeps, because no other term that was used before had the foresight in seeing we need to gatekeep. Foundational Black American is the only term that we said, okay, we need a term that gatekeeps everything else. That's why it's unremixable, because it was designed to be unremixable, unlike everything else. So that's cool. You can use it, but other people can too, and that's the problem.
Okay, cool. All right, so I think where we disagree is that you're making a comparison to Freedmen with racial classification. Okay? Meaning Freedmen is a status. If you descend from people who were enslaved, that's not something that someone else can use as a terminology. It's not. Now, we can create terms and go back around semantics of terminology, but if you descended from someone who was actually enslaved through the institution of chattel slavery, and they were no longer enslaved, they're recognized as free, codified in law. Part of the reason why you, me, grandparents, if you have children, are not recognized in the status of being enslaved is because that was passed on. That was ongoing. That's what I was trying to say in the beginning, that when you are in a society, you have statuses with people who are, as an example, free or enslaved. Once the institution of slavery was abolished and people were recognized as emancipated, which is what Freedmen stands for, as you said, that is a different thing from the terminologies of race. It's a different thing, right? Now, because the only people who were enslaved in this country as a collective group were those people that you referred to, which would be Negro, Black, or colored, or African American today, or FBA, it doesn't apply to anybody else. So
that's you're incorrect, sir. Because you're literally changing the definition of Freedmen. That doesn't change the definition of Freedmen.
Hear me out, Afro. I'm not changing the definition. I'm actually going into the actual status that the definition of the terminology represents.
No, sir, that would make perfect sense, and you would be correct if the status was made before the descendants of slaves. This status pre-exists America. This status was not made.
Right.
The
back
status
to Rome.
of freedom was not made in America or for the black slaves. So that the status still carries the same definition. The definition just means emancipated individual.
Right.
So
or person. Right.
Yeah, emancipated person, individual. So when you say so, the reason we got that status is because we were the only people who were freed. But what you're trying to make the argument is that nobody else can claim it because nobody else was enslaved. And the flaw with that argument is the fact that that does not change the literal definition of the word freedman. The literal definition of the word freedman stays the exact same way it was when it was created, which only means a descendant, or not a descendant, only means an emancipated or freed person. That's the only thing it means. So you're trying to put a racial barrier on it when you can't do that, because that's not what the word means.
Right. I'm actually not. I'm actually making the argument that it compiles the race factor that you guys are getting at in that, because we're the only people who were emancipated.
Sir, no,
and the status,
it does not.
The status is inherited. Let me just finish here. The status is inherited through perpetuity. Because if you have an institution of slavery that's set up where people are inheriting a status of being a slave because their mama was a slave, it's the same thing. So what I'm trying to say is that the racial aspect that you guys are kind of getting at is already tied into the status aspect of the freedom.
That is incorrect, sir.
It's
Afro,
That is
can I please address this man?
that is implied. I'm a land in very quickly, okay? Because I know we got a lot of hands, we got a lot of people waiting, so I'm not going to do the back and forth. Maybe we can circle back to this point, but all I'm going to say, and I'm going to land here, all I'm going to say is you're taking the implication that only because black people were the only ones freed, that changes the definition of the word. The word is literally going to be used the exact same way it was intended to use when it was made, and it was not intended to be used in a racial sense. It was only intended to be used in a sense of people who are descendant of slaves. We have ancestors who came from the chattel slavery, okay? Mm-hmm. Non-black people have ancestors who came from chattel slavery. Okay, black people are not the only ones who have ancestors. So based off of the definition of the word, we can say we are a descendant of freedmen, and they can say they are a descendant of freedmen, because nowhere in the creation of the word does it say you have to be black to be a descendant of a freedman. That is the flaw.
I agree with you, brother. I agree there with you. I want to make that clear. I agree with you on that. I think what we disagree is that the status that was actually the status that's inherited with regards to being a freedman, meaning the initial former ex-slaves, that did not go to anybody who wasn't black. And I think that's probably where we disagree.
Brother, in the 1800s, that's 150 years ago. That's not going to apply today. There is a lot of people who are not black, who do have ties. Do you understand? Right. Do you believe that's true or not?
No, we agree on that point, brother. I think you're missing my point. Okay. And I'll end here because I don't want to keep y'all. I don't want to hold up y'all room. What I'm trying to say is,
okay.
Hey, can I continue what I was saying, bro? Cause all I was saying was, man, I was being addressed by the brother in his conversation with his dialogue between Afro Elite. I just wanted to point out two things of what he brought up. He brought up Special Field Order 15. This is one of the Freedmen talking points. I'm so used to it. HR 330 of the in the House of Representatives, February 26, 1866. Right. This is the 39th Congress session. I'm going to go to page 5. I'm going to just read this right quick, and I'm going to let y'all know that the Special Field Order 15 was not for black folk. Section 6, and it further enacted the occupants of land under Major General Sherman's Special Field Order dated at Savannah, January 16, 1865, and hereby confirmed in their possession for the period of 3 years from the date of said order, and no person shall be distributed in or ousted from said possession during said 3 years unless a settlement shall be made with said occupant by the former owner, his hires or assigns satisfactory to the commissioner of the Freedmen's Bureau, provided that whenever the former owners of lands occupied under General Sherman's field order shall apply for restoration of said lands, the commissioner is hereby authorized upon the agreement and with the written consent of said occupants to procure other lands for them by rent or purchase, not exceeding 40 acres for each occupant, upon the terms and conditions named in the preceding section. So we're going to kill this Special Order 15 crap. That's in talking point dead. Then we're going to kill this other talking point about, freedmen. It was a term that was lost because the status was actually for 3 years because it was a status that was put in place to help the civilized, the whites after the Civil War, the poor whites, the blacks, and all that stuff. This is the 42nd Congress, y'all, of 1871 to 1873, H.R. 379. A bill for the relief of the freedmen of the Choctaw Nation and for other purposes, whereas in the 3rd article of the treaty made and concluded on the 28th day of April. And this goes on to read about the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and those 5 tribes, civilized tribes. So what he just said about it being lost, nothing was lost. Those people picked right back up and was continuing to push the freedman status. The freedman status is a political status for those 5 tribes. It's not for us. Stop being disingenuous and trying to disindoctrinate.
You twisted my words, brother.
Yeah, trying to indoctrinate
I
people up
actually
here.
agree with you on that.
No, you did not. No, you did not. No, you did not. Nope. You're not going to move the goalpost to me.
I sure did. I sure did. If you allow me to just clarify that one point.
Jojo.
I did that.
Jojo,
I did that.
I'm going to let you come back, Jojo, real quick. So let Jojo finish his point, please.
All right. So like I was saying, when the brother said something about, the freedman term is something that was lost, it was never lost. The term went straight to those tribes of so-called African descent. So for them to try to even put, this con game and try to cornhole us way back to that time to argue about certain points out of that thing, man, look here, man, I just debunked your special field order 15, 40 acres in the mule. It wasn't for black people. So I just debunked that. So what now? Go get the best freedmen that you got. Power up.
I don't think you fully understood what I said, brother. Listen, just let me before you reply. I don't have a problem with that. I said that the Indian freedmen were the ones that actually kept the name. They're the ones that actually kept the name, and they turned it into an ethnic identifier. I said that the 4 million of us were the ones that did not keep the name, brother. And the reason is because our reconstruction was sabotaged.
All right. We have to, and I made this space not too long ago when I talked about the rules of Twitter Spaces. Okay, we have a number of different guests up here, some who have not spoken since they came up here, and I feel that it's a little bit rude to continue this. And I fault myself for this because I was a part of that. To not allow these people to speak. Let's value all of the speakers' time and move along. We're just going to have to circle back to that if we do, because I keep saying the same thing. So it's just going in one ear out the other. But who was next? Was it She Means Business?
Yeah, She Means Business, and then Atavist, and then John Horse.
All right.
Okay, so I just want to state my position clear because I'm not against Foundational Black American. I use it. You can go on my timeline and see that I use it all the time. I am not against Tariq. I have been my whole family has been a supporter of Tariq going back to the MAC lessons. We donated to the museum. We donated to the projects for Hidden Colors, all of the different projects. So I want to make it clear that I'm not talking about using Freedmen over Foundational Black American. I simply was asking about what is wrong with combining the terms, and I brought up the history point. And before I was interrupted, what I was saying is that you actually made the case in this space that other people can claim freedman status. So when we say, well, nobody else will be able to claim our history, how can we kind of say that? So if you guys are okay with the precedent being set that white supremacists have co-opted people's history all the time. We have Latinos moving in our history right now, including Afro-Latinas trying to pretend like they're the same people as us, hence why they're putting them in the African American Museum. And when you even go into the conversations on hip hop, them trying to pretend like they're the same as us, even if they weren't here. So this is all stuff that's actively going on right now. So if you guys are saying that you are okay with losing all of the, potentially using all of the historical ties to the term freedman, because we can't deny, you just made the case several times that other people can co-opt that term, meaning they can go back and say, hey, that was our history. We did those things. Just like the Latinos are trying to claim that they were part of Jim Crow. So if you guys are okay with that, I was just asking for clarification on if you're okay with that and what all that entails. And then I was asking for specific solutions to ensure that we don't lose that part of our history. Because like Zilla said, yes, a lot of us were not calling ourselves freemen. A lot of our people did not know that history. That's why I said that. I firmly acknowledge that. So that's all I was asking is, what is the solution to ensure, because that history is important. It's not just the political stuff. It's the stuff that our people actually did. And when you do a lot of research on the different things that we were doing across the country, you'll see all of the different things that we did. So I'm just wondering, what is the solution if we're okay with losing that part? And again, I'm not advocating for using freedmen by itself. I'm not advocating for American freedmen by itself either, because I don't think that protects us from other people getting into our ethnicity. So I'm not for that. I was specifically asking about foundational Black American freedmen together. So I just want to make that clear. I've never had a problem in your spaces, Beatzilla or Black Alpha. I've never come across disingenuous or any of that stuff. So I didn't really appreciate that accusation. I had a legitimate question, and I don't think I needed to be treated like somebody who is against foundational Black Americans, because I'm not. So thank you. I'm going to go back down to listener.
Now, hold on. Because
I got a question.
Me and you had a back and forth, and I want there to be no misunderstanding. I did not mean to come off disrespectfully. I tried to allow you to speak, and you were in the matrix, so you couldn't hear my answer. My answer was the fact that we do not need to claim a term to claim the history of the term. And why I'm saying that is because we were classified as many different things throughout our time here. We were classified as many different things, and we've accomplished many different things under those classifications. So it's not true to say we need to identify as that in order for other people not to co-opt that, because let's be honest, people can say they're African American right now. You know, we've done so much invention, so many revolutions, so much stuff as African Americans. But we're not trying to claim the term African American because people can already claim that. That doesn't necessarily mean that they can claim the history, even though they attempt to. These are people failing to attempt to do that. What I was saying before in the space, now I'm calm, I'm not dissing you, was we do not need to claim a specific term or use a specific term to tie us to that specific lineage. Because if you say, okay, we have to add foundational Black American to Freedmen, then we would ignore all of what we did when we were called colored. So then you have to say we're colored foundational Black American Freedmen. Then you would have to say we're Aboriginal colored foundational Black American Freedmen. Then it's Aboriginal colored Negro African American. You would have to add all of the terms if we make the argument that you need the term to tie you to the history. What we're saying is the word foundational in and of itself adds every single term that we were classified as. So you don't need any additives, because that's all inclusive. That's why that's the whole title of the space, why FBA is the best, because the word foundational is all inclusive of the term colored, Negro, freedman, slave, all of these things. So that was my answer. And I know you didn't hear because the matrix, but now I hope there's some understanding now. And no disrespect, no diss. You know, we on the same page now.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to say I get that point, but I think that when you look into the Freedmen history, there were specific schools, hospitals, and towns that were using that term to identify those schools and those towns. So that's where I kind of think it's a little bit different. But if you guys are okay with losing that, I'm gonna rock with it. I'm not gonna argue with it. I'm not, because there's no point in going back and forth.
You're being passive aggressive, ma'am. You're being passive aggressive right now, ma'am. Because let me ask you a question. Then let me ask you a question. No, let me ask you a question.
How is that passive aggressive?
Because you're saying, oh, if y'all okay with losing it, if it's cool with y'all losing
well, I mean, let me reword that. Let me reword that, because I don't mean it in the way that you're saying. I'm saying if you are okay with it potentially being separated from us, because it could. I don't think we can say that it can't if we know this has happened before in history with white supremacists. I'm saying if you think that it's covered, I'm just saying if you think that it's covered,
No,
I'm going to
yes,
go with you thinking that it's covered. That's all I'm saying.
Let me
So
just ask you a question.
I don't want to argue.
Since you know, and I don't apparently, let me ask you a question. We did a lot as freedmen. If we need to keep the term, to keep the link to history, if the only way to keep them, you left, cowardly ass move. If you need to keep the term to keep the history, should we ignore all of what we did when we were Negroes? Should we ignore all of what we did when we were slaves? Let's just come up with all of the terms that we were ever classified as, so that way none of the history is going to be left out. We're going to say we are the foundational Black American, slave, Negro, colored, freedmen, African American, Black American, Afro Americans of America. That way nothing, and we'll put human in there too. Put melanated human. Okay, it's going to be a long ass term. We're gonna have to, because that's the argument you're making, ma'am. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. That's the argument you're making, and you only are making that argument for freedmen. Why? Let me ask you. Why are you not making that argument for the word Negro? Or why are you not making that argument for the word colored or slave? Why are you only making that argument for the word freeman?
I gave examples, and I don't appreciate you calling me cowardly. I said I wasn't going to argue with it. I said, if that's what you're saying, I will accept you saying.
No, ma'am. No, you're being passive aggressive. And then when I was about to correct
Why
you,
is it that you keep interrupting me when I'm talking, but I don't interrupt you when you're talking? You're showing disrespect to me. You're being hostile to me for no reason. Not. So I'm just simply saying, if that's what you're saying, I will accept that. And I'm not going to continue to argue about it.
Okay, we'll accept it then. Accept it. And you might as well leave. All right? You might as well accept it, because you're being disingenuous, and you left because you were being cowardly. Now I don't care about being nice to your ass no more. How about that? You left because you were being cowardly, because your argument is stupid. That's a stupid ass argument that you made, ma'am. Okay? If that's and I literally tried to be as nice. Y'all saw me, damn it. Y'all saw me try to be nice as shit. All right? I said, okay, with that argument, you would have to use every single term. And in her passive-aggressive ass, well, if you're okay with losing all of the rich history, if you're okay with us surrendering it to white people, then I guess, okay. If you're okay with being a weak black male, I guess, okay. All that, ma'am, no, you don't get a chance to speak no more. You good. I'm sorry, y'all.
My question is now, why would anybody need to go out of their way to start centering in freedmen into an FBA space? You feel what I'm saying, Black Alpha?
Man, I'm going to say it like this, and I'm going to ask this question to everybody listening right now. If you were to tell me that you would have a group in an organization, Freedmen, ADOS, and they would be out here on the OMB doing CNN interviews like my brother Sage alluded to earlier, and nobody was saying nothing about them, and they were just going around willy-nilly, shaking hands, talking about vote Democrat down ballot and all this type of stuff. You would probably pretty much think that they was working with them folks, right? But then you have another thing, which is the true lineage, heritage, and culture that moves as a collective, doesn't have a CEO or president or the mama of the community or someone running around saying that they created the term reparationist. And this type of individual, all the tethers don't like them. All the blenders don't like them. The POCs hate on them. The minorities hate on them. The Democrats hate on them. The Republicans hate on them. The Freedmen hate on them. The ADOS hate on them. Yvette Carnell, Strappy, Tone Tits. Everybody hates foundational Black Americans. Everybody calls in our spaces. Now, with that said, if you got these two groups over here that got all these Republican and Democrat connections, but yet you got this other lineage that is truly to the Black grassroots and represents the Black grassroots to the fullest, which one do you think is more representative of the people? Which one do you feel resonates more with society? Which one is truly, genuinely from the Black grassroots? The answer to that is foundational Black Americans. If you notice the one denominator amongst all these people, ADOS hates on FBA, the Freedmen hate on FBA, Tethers hate on FBA, Democrats hate on FBA, the Republicans hate on FBA, everybody hates on FBA. anyone who hates on one particular group, that particular group is probably doing it the right way. They didn't like the Black Panthers, they was doing it for real. They didn't like the NOI, they was doing it for real. They don't like anybody who's genuinely representing this lineage, heritage, and the culture. And they got flowers, they got daisies, they got sprinkles, they got donuts, goddamn everything for those other groups. So we have to watch out for who's genuinely representing us, and then we got to watch out for the other people who are only representing themselves. Individualism versus the collective. They represent individuals, we represent the collective. We don't run around here saying we're organizations. We don't run around here saying we're groups or cliques or crews. We simply just represent the heritage. So that shows you who's generally representing the Black grassroots. Everybody else is just putting on a sideshow. Now I want to ask my brother Afro this question real quick. Well, I got my brother on stage right now. In terms of my brother Afro, in terms of this lineage, heritage, and culture, and going forward, how do you feel we got to start dealing with all these other people who come at us? And I'm not just talking about the Freedmen or the ADOS. I'm talking about everybody in general. How do you feel foundational Black Americans got to maintain the focus? Because it's been pretty much clear that everybody's got an issue with us. How do we maintain and stay laser focused and just continue to get the job done, brother?
Brother, that's a great question. What we do to maintain focus is we look at what we study the teachings of our master teachers, okay? And one of the things that they say is the fact that white supremacy, the dominant society, will come at us through all angles, all different tactics, buck breaking, economic deprivation, all different types of war, just general warfare. They will come at us through all different tactics. When we understand that and teach ourselves that, and when we empower ourselves as individuals, and then by proxy empower the group, we will all move together as a unit together, okay? Now, what we do to stay on focus is the fact that we have to understand, this whole thing that we're doing right here is to dismantle the global system of white supremacy. And some people make an argument as if reparations is the end goal. Reparations is not the end goal. That's the talking point that's been coming up for like the last couple years. Reparations has never been the end goal. Dismantling the global system of white supremacy, so there is literally no white supremacy in the world, that is the end goal. Reparations is going to be the weapon that we use to dismantle it. That is why we're getting reparations. Okay, you got to, there's, like they say, there's levels to this shit. You got to take this in certain levels, in certain stages. When you understand white supremacy, okay, like our brother Neely Fuller said, when you understand white supremacy, you'll understand everything. The goal is we won't be confused. We might have differences, and that's okay, but we won't be confused, and we'll be on code. You can be on code with people who have differences than you, okay, who have differences of opinion than you, okay, but you cannot be on code with someone who is confused. So once we are all understanding of what the goal is, we will be focused and we will be powerful enough to defeat white supremacy.
Amen all day. What about you, Zilla? How you feel about that, brother?
I'm sorry, repeat the question real quick.
How do we stay focused as foundational Black Americans? How do we maintain a tight grip on the lineage, heritage, and culture, knowing that everybody wants us to loosen our grip, everybody wants us to stop being FBA and go back to being vague terms, loose terms, and flat terms? How do we, knowing that it's all eyes on FBA, how do we stay focused? How do we stay sharp? And how do we maintain going on the path that we're going?
Well, I would definitely say this is not a path for the weak-hearted. I will tell you that. But with that being said, for those of y'all who have already been through so much, understand, staying focused and committed to protecting our culture and our lineage and our heritage, which also gives respect to our ancestors in this soil, is absolutely imperative at this moment, because they're trying to erase us culturally. They've already done a hell of a job erasing us financially. And we are at the where the sirens and alarms should be firing off, and we have a lot of people in our midst that are asleep, and then we have a lot of people in our midst who are just simply committed to working against their own interests and their own people. So with that being said, stay intentional about this movement. If this is what you at, then this is what you at. Not to relate it to anything like gangbanging, but if you with it, you with it. And that's for staying focused on that. As you go forward, understand and accept that this is one of the most, or if not the biggest movement in the history of modern day America. And it's because it is for the people who are speaking right now, and the people are speaking for their own ancestors. That's not them giving you a leader. That's you taking the reins for yourself. That's why all of these different sidebar arguments are happening. So understand, they want us arguing because then we lose focus and lose sight of what our real objective is. And they never do. They never take, we live rent free in the system of white supremacy's head. That's their religion. Their religion is worshiping the oppression of foundational Black Americans. And so keeping that focus is key and imperative, to not get distracted by sidebar conversations, and also understand when you start hearing the same message a little too much from too many places. There's no varying the language. The exact same phrasing is happening. And like I have to say it for this particular Freedmen conversation, every time I'm hearing it, there is a nullification of what foundational Black Americans are and what all Negroes are and Black Americans. And there's a big nullification there to jump back to a certain specific terminology. Listen, one thing that I've learned over the course of my lifetime is that you can't ingest too much bullshit or, before too long, you just start living in it. So anybody that tells you they just like going and tipping over here to go hear some dumb trolling stuff, and then they want to be over here, that person right there ain't got 1 foot out and 1 foot in. They got 2 feet all over in the bullshit while wasting time over here in the positive space. Time to start cutting that up. So we need to just start cleaning house. So start cleaning up your little personal circles and stuff like that, and get rid of because trust me, they send all types. So y'all have new friends on this internet. Just start sifting out and sifting through their messages, and you might just have to cut some ties. Because, I believe all 3 of us on this stage have. So sometimes it's necessary to trim the fat, family. Prune that vine. So that's my response to that, brother.
A1 and on point, man. Both of y'all brothers. And that's why I wanted to bring it, man. Hey, hold on. Whoa, you can hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Damn, this shit jumping all over the goddamn place. All right, anyway, as I was saying, that's what I wanted to bring it back on, brother, because, when we start speaking about this, we all understand that we're in a real serious time. We all understand that we go in places and we see what it is. Ain't nobody blind. We all understand what time it is. We understand the ops that are against us. We understand all of that. And one thing for sure and 2 things for certain is that we understand foundational Black Americans and those of us in this lineage, heritage, and culture, and those who identify with any other lineage, not group or organization, lineage. And that's what we have to base it on. The people who follow the lineage and the heritage versus the people who follow organizations and, fake little cults. Those type of people are who we're going to have to separate ourselves from so these things don't get murky, these things don't get complicated, and these things don't get blurry. And one thing I've noticed and what we've been doing a very, very, very clear way is that we've been keeping it lineage based. I love that term, lineage based. Everything has to be lineage based. So when somebody comes around saying they the mama of the community, or someone comes around disrespecting our master teachers, or someone comes around here with an F1 flag, which is a ripoff of B1, we have to understand those individuals do not represent the lineage based. And if we stay and maintain a lineage based perspective, everything will get done. I don't care what you represent. I don't care what you claim. It could be anything. If it's lineage based, we good. All the other semantics we can work out at the boss's table because we all bosses, brothers and sisters, kings and queens, goddess and gods, and we thorough enough to do so. FBA, Foundational Black Americans, are getting the work done. We're out here in the streets and we're really moving, and we are what I always say, the FBA family tree. I don't care where you from, East Coast, West Coast, down south, up north, anywhere in between. We really represent it to the fullest. And anybody who's cool with that and really understands that, then they're gonna rock with it. Anybody who has some type of jealousy, spite, envy, some type of hatred, well, then they're gonna expose themselves. A hater's always gonna expose themselves. I mean, look at it today. We over here having this space, had a couple, 200, 300 people in here one time, and then you got folks that was literally sitting in the bottom the whole time just ear hustling. And then they was in the comments section section, talking to everybody in the comment section. What Drake say, they got them Twitter fingers. You know what I'm saying? They got them goddamn tether Twitter fingers. And that's what it is. That's the difference between us. We get the job done on the main stage and they do all the hating on the backstage. But either way, foundational Black American exceptionalism is in the building, in the place. We all represented to the fullest. And if we all do a little, then we all do a lot. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this space up. We broke it down. And one thing that we have learned today is that we are focused. We are all on the same page. And anybody who's feuding and fighting and bickering, we will go ahead and classify them as parasites, and we'll put them over there in the parasite corner. And all of us who are brothers and sisters, kings, queens, goddess, and gods, we going to stay right here in the winner circle, because they say heavy is the head that wears the crown. Well, FBA wears the motherfucking crown. Checkmate. Y'all have a good night. I'm swinging over to the Black Alpha Network. I'll catch y'all over there, man. Pull on up. It's about to be a goddamn block party, and we're going to set it off. For many to come, and y'all know we're going to keep pushing this subject, and it ain't going to stop here, so there'll be another one tomorrow, the next day. But no matter what it is, we're going to have fun. We're going to roast motherfuckers. We're going to get reparations. We're going to represent this lineage, but we're going to enjoy each other's company in the same time. So certified salute to the whole family. Catch you on the other side. Salute to my brother Afro Elite, Beatzilla, Dark and Lovey, Eastside, Miriam, JoJo. I see you, Rilla, Jay, Will, everybody. One love, Sage. Peace out. Catch you on the other end. FBA all motherfucking day.